This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
I'm so happy with the turnout. This is great. I'm Kim Schott. I'm the chair of the Southampton School Committee. And the first order of business tonight is the budget hearing. So before I open the hearing, I just, well, actually, I'm going to open the hearing and then I'm going to explain how this is going to work tonight. So I'm going to share some context-setting information, followed by the business administrator presenting the fiscal 27 budget figures. The committee will then have the opportunity to discuss and ask questions about the budget. I will then open the floor to members of the public who would like to comment, ask a question, or both. I will start with those who signed up to speak, and then, if you've thought of a question, feel free to raise your hand. I don't know all of your names, so I may just have to point to people or, describe the shirt color or something to decide who's next. And then the committee will decide how to proceed after that. I would request that, while the committee is discussing and asking questions, that you really listen to that, because the committee might bring something up that's the same question you had, so you might get an answer as you listen to our discussion. Okay, so, all right, so the public hearing is officially open. All right, so here's the context-setting information that I want to share with you. So last year, when the Norris override question failed, the fiscal 26 budget, which is the current school year, it included an approximate reduction of $668,993 from the proposed level service budget. A level service budget is the cost of providing the same programming from one year to the next. The positions that were eliminated or reduced as a result of this were one kindergarten teacher and one first grade teacher, which resulted in larger class sizes at both of those grades. The art teacher was eliminated, 2 paraprofessionals, 0.5 nurse, reduced from 2.0 to 1.8. Math interventionists were eliminated. When Norris had a full-time equivalent math interventionist, approximately 32 children received math intervention support. That is not available this year. Half an administrative assistant. 1 occupational therapist dropped from full-time to 0.75, and speech dropped from 0.75 to 0.5. In addition, K-6 classroom supply lines were zeroed out, as were supplies for the adjustment counselors, ELL, language arts, math, music, physical education, library, and audiovisual. So, at last month's school committee meeting, the school committee asked that a restorative budget be prepared with the intention of restoring all that was reduced or eliminated when the override failed. However, as the town's dire fiscal situation became clear over the past month, it also became clear to me that a fully restorative budget would be difficult, if not impossible, to get approved. In fact, any budget that we propose tonight will require an override, as the town as a whole will require a substantial override to continue funding core services. So with that in mind, the budget that we are starting with tonight looks to restore 2 positions to Norris. One is a full-time equivalent math interventionist, and the other restores a 4th specials teacher with the intention of offering STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics, as a special. The inclusion of STEAM would bring Norris in line with the other elementary schools that send children to Hampshire Regional who all have either STEM or STEAM programs. The proposed budget also restores some, but not all, of the supply funds that were eliminated when the override failed. So that's our starting point tonight with this budget. Another thing I want to mention about this budget document. You will see on the document that some expense categories include details, while others do not. The school committee is currently in negotiations with teachers, paraprofessionals, administrative assistants, and custodians. So in order to preserve the confidentiality of the school committee's bargaining position, the instructional, administration, and building and grounds expense categories do not include details. Okay, so the next part of our presentation, our business administrator is going to walk us all through the expense and revenue information in the budget. John, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Excuse my back, everyone, but I'm speaking to the school committee at this point. I mean, everybody's allowed to hear. It's just, I can't turn around. All right. If you do have this document in front of you, I'm going to start going over that. So to begin with.
John, hold on one second.
Yes.
I had 30 copies. I had 25 public copies made. I did not expect this larger turnout. Again, thank you for coming. If you have a device with you, if you go to hr-k12.org, from there, click on school budgets. From there, click on FY27, and then open the Southampton folder. This is in that folder. I apologize for not having more copies. I just did not expect this turnout. Okay, thanks, Don.
Okay, and if anybody wants to share, I can redistribute some copies. Can you share with that person?
Yeah, I'm sharing.
Oh, you are sharing. Okay. All right, fine. I'll stay out of that. Okay. Let's start with the expenditure budget. If you look at the first line, it shows the FY26 approved budget to be $6,622,719. And the 27 proposed is an increase of 3.36% or almost 223,000. The other thing that's really important when putting the whole budget together is for us to look at what revenue sources there are and what we might use to offset some of those expenses. I'm going to start with a summary, and then we're going to go over the detail of what those revenue sources are. But to begin with, you'll note the state revenues indicate that they're going from 180,038 to 200,000. And we'll go over the details in a moment. Then the school committee can advance additional funds. Last year they advanced 160,000, and this year only 100,000 because the balances in the accounts were depleted low enough such that only certain levels were available. Then other offsets come from a variety of grants that we get, and again, the grants were decreasing, and so we last year funded 423,000 and this year 319. So all total of the 6.8 million in the expenditures, 619,000 are revenues that will offset that, which brings the contribution that the town must come up with to 6,226,000, or an increase of 6.26% and almost 367,000. So then going over the revenues. Chapter 78 is something that is provided by the state to the town. This particular revenue source is booked directly to the municipal budget. So that's why you don't see it. It is for school expenses, but it's not put into this budget. The town takes that in as revenue. Of course, the town is paying for the school, so that's the rationale there. Then the charter school reimbursement, that's also an amount that goes directly to the municipal revenue lines. School choice tuition in, and what this is, of course, is for any student who comes in from outside of our district, we get $5,000 per student. And there's two components of this school choice revenue. There's what I just talked about, which is $5,000 per student. And then there's something called SPED increment, special education increment. And what that includes is dollars that the school has to pay to provide special education for students outside the district. But because these students we are not ultimately financially responsible for, those districts must pay back any special education expenses that we have incurred, and that is done through, I'll call it the state clearinghouse. We don't get those directly, we get that through the state. And the way the state does that, because school choice category is all about students outside of your district who are attending your district, they put this circuit, what would otherwise be called circuit breaker. Circuit breaker would be is what we get to reimburse special education costs. But rather than going into a circuit breaker line, which we'll see further below, this goes into the school choice line. But it is the comparable amounts to provide IEP services, individual education plan services, for each student who's outside of our district. So, so those are the two components of school choice. Now, if you look at this, and that is often provided on the cherry sheet, this thing called the cherry sheet that the state gives you. It says, this is what your revenue sources are going to be, and these are some of your expenses. This year, if you go to the cherry sheet, you'll see a very large number. It's about $377,000. Of that amount, about 166 related to last year's sped increment. We don't know what this year's sped increment's going to be. They haven't, that hasn't been entirely calculated. The state is in the midst of reconciling who's sitting in what seat and who has to pay what. So because we don't know that amount, I didn't use the full amount. I discussed this with the school committee chair, and our direction was to be a little bit more conservative until we know for sure. And so we put in 200,000 of that amount that you'll see on this other sheet in order to not overcommit, because once we put a number down, we have to come up with that number. And if we're not going to get those funds in, we can't rely on it. So that's the school choice revenue. And so you'll see on the summary where in that second box where it says category 1, 200,000, that explains the 200,000. Then the next things that the next category in the detail really only includes one number, and that also happens to be school choice. And what that is, let's say we get the money in and we didn't use all of it in that year. We put it in what's called a revolving fund, and so you are able to access those funds, and the school committee can advance money out of those funds. So it further depletes your balance, but it's available. And so the school choice tuition in the school choice revolving account above what we just talked about is 100,000. I hope that's not confusing. If it is, we'll have to address those, those questions. But basically, there's a pot of money. All of the money that comes in goes into a revolving account, and then we take it out as the school committee allows. So that is the second category of revenues. Now, the third category includes rural aid, title grants, special education grants, and all of the grants that we are expecting are listed here and the amounts that we expect to get. You will see rural aid is a little shorter than it was last year because the state has indicated that we will be held harmless for 85% of what we had the previous year. As I was explaining to someone just recently, the state has changed its definition of rural aid. It's unusual in that rural to me means rural. Country, maybe it's population density. It's not that you don't have a large city. However, this year they've changed that definition to include any school, whether in a city or a town, rural area, with a declining population is able to get rural aid. And so that means there'll be more people qualifying, and therefore there'll be a smaller pool, and we'll probably get a smaller amount. That's why we had to decrease that amount. And what they said is if you put in 85% of it, we'll guarantee that, or we'll hold you harmless for that. So then we get down to the SPED IDEA grants, and we're getting just about what we got last year. You'll see a $1,600 less. et cetera. And the Title I grant is a federal grant. So these SPED grants in the Title I, those are all, they come through the state, but they're from the feds. And the federal government has decided that it's going to support some in the usual manner and not others. So Title I is typically a grant that's given to lower income, to support lower income kinds of activities. And that wasn't high on the list, and so that was getting cut. And so we're also expecting maybe 15% less. So you'll see that number is reduced. And then I'm going to skip over Title II and Title IV. You see the amounts there. They're about what we got last year, or just a teeny-weeny bit higher in the Title II grant. Then the next thing, so if you take the circuit breaker 24, we really should just draw a line through that. I should have hidden that row, because circuit breaker comes in 1 year, and you're allowed to carry over a balance into the next year, but then you have to use it all up. So 24 is all gone. 25 came in, and we had about $5,500 left over in FY25, the end of last year, and we rolled that over into FY26. So you have to use that amount first, and then you can use what's indicated for FY26, which is $150,000. Then anything that you think is going to be rolled over, you can put into the next year. And we do not anticipate there will be a high rollover. There may be some money. I think at the very most it would be is $16,000, but we are not sure yet because not all of our expenses have come in. So we chose not to roll that $16,000 over into 27 as an offset, but we did put the full amount of what had been calculated by our SPED director, who goes through everything with a fine-tooth comb to uncover any services that we could request reimbursement for. Circuit breaker is the name that they give to reimbursements for special education expenses, but it's not a dollar for dollar reimbursement. You have to achieve a threshold. And just to give you an idea both of how expensive special education costs are and how we have to be very careful in the calculation, before the state reimburses $1, you have to achieve a certain threshold. And for this year, that threshold is over $53,000 per student. So it's not the total, it's the per student amount. You have to pay up to 53, and then they'll start to reimburse you. So they reimburse two things. They reimburse out-of-district tuition. So if a student special education needs cannot be fulfilled within the school, and you have to send a student to another school where they have those services, they will reimburse that once you achieve the $53,000 at about 100%, if the pot of money is available for that. Then they will also reimburse transportation to take that student to the school. And that's usually, like last year, I think it was reimbursed at 44%. It's whatever is left over after meeting all the state's tuition requirements for out of district, then they'll reimburse transportation. So we had higher SPED expenses last year, and all these reimbursements are based on the previous year, and the same with a number of these things I've been talking about. So our expenses for special education are expected to decrease this year in 2026. Therefore, what we're going to get reimbursed next year is going to be lower, hence the 75. So that, with those three categories of revenue, that comes up to the $619,000. So shall I continue, or did you want to take questions at that point, or tell me? No? All right, I'll just continue. So then the next page is the expenditure overview, and it's just a summary across 7 categories of expenses. The first category is instructional expenses, and that's going up. A 9.7%, or almost $428,000. So that would include such things as salaries, stipends, substitute teachers, it covers a whole host of expenses, different supplies and things for instructional use. So that's the lion's share of this budget. And then, as we talked about, the SPED tuition, services and transportation, this year is projected, was at the time projected to be about $628,000, and next year it's projected to be lower at about $439,000. So those expenses have gone down. The central office expenses have gone down, reflecting the temporary nature of some of the forensic expenses. For those of you who weren't here then, in the last few years, there's been a lot of transition in the central office, and the general ledger needed to be reviewed very carefully in order to ensure that things are recorded correctly, et cetera. And so we had to bring on external consultants to sort of get things to an equilibrium. And now we are no longer going to be supporting that. So the central office costs went down about, for forensics, about $178,000, and that gets spread across the 5 schools, and Southampton's share of that reduction was about $26,000. Buildings and grounds was fairly flat, but there were a couple of things we had to increase for, and so that's an increase of $9,000. And then administration is increasing a small amount as well. And then I left the transportation on there just so that you know, of course, students are being transported to school, but that segment of the budget is on the municipal side. So there's special education, there's special education transportation, vocational transportation, and regular transportation. All of those are paid for through the transportation line that is on the municipal budget. So that's why that says 0. It's not that we're expecting anybody to walk to school. So then we get to SPED. No, so that was the summary. And then these are the details.
So I think, John, at this point, what I'd like to do,
Yes.
given the overview and people have the detail in front of them, what I'd like to do is share a little more information with the committee and the public, and then I think I'll open it up to the committee with questions, because you can look at this, and if there's any particular lines that are jumping out, you can ask your questions.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for all of that, John. Okay, so the other information before the school committee starts talking about this and, asking questions is information regarding, so as I said at the beginning, any budget that we propose tonight would require an override because the town needs an override to continue funding core services, which includes the school. So I just want to go through this one more time. So as I already mentioned, when the override failed last year, the Norris budget was cut by $668,993. So that took us to below level service. And one more time, the things that were eliminated: 1 kindergarten teacher, 1 first grade teacher, the art teacher, 2 paraprofessionals, half a nurse, reading specialists were reduced from 2.0 to 1.8, math interventionists were eliminated, half an administrative assistant, 1 occupational therapist dropped from full-time to 0.75, speech dropped from 0.75 to 0.0, and 0.5 rather, and many of our supply lines were zeroed out. So the town administrator has informed me that if an override fails this year, the Norris School will have to reduce the budget by $500,000 below level funding. This means that Norris would head into the 2026-2027 school year funded $500,000 below what the town contributed this year. That would make the funding reductions to the Norris School over $1.1 million in a 2-year period. So here's what that means for Norris. And I want to preface this by saying that the Norris School staff has already been informed of the potential of a $500,000 cut that would take the budget below level funding. And all of the staff members who will be impacted have been informed by the administration. So nobody's hearing about this for the first time at this meeting. So in addition to what was reduced or eliminated for the 2025-2026 school year, the positions that would be eliminated or reduced for the 2026-2027 school year are: the assistant principal position would be eliminated. All reading specialist positions would be eliminated. 2 paraprofessional positions would be eliminated. 0.5 nurse would be eliminated. Half an administrative assistant would be eliminated. Half a custodian. 0.3 preschool paraprofessional. Occupational therapy would drop from 1.35 to 1.0. Speech will drop from 2.25 to 2.0. So every one of these reductions will have an impact on the Norris school community. I want to share some examples with you of what those impacts are. The assistant principal is responsible for many things, including attendance coordination, MCAS coordination, safety and security, like working on lockdowns, cafeteria duty, bullying investigator, Title IV investigator, behavior management, restorative practices, and evaluations. All reading specialists would be eliminated. The current reading specialists support over 50 children with reading. Some of these children would also be receiving math interventions, but they are not because of the elimination of math interventionists in the current year budget. Half a nurse would be eliminated, resulting in having only 1 full-time nurse at Norris. And for some context there, there are currently 26 children at Norris who have life-threatening allergies, 53 with asthma, 2 with type 1 diabetes, 6 children who require daily medication. Nurses also perform K-3 hearing screenings, which is approximately 249 children, vision screenings for 416 children, and grade 5 and 6 postural screenings, and referrals for any children who don't pass screenings. So those are some of the impacts of what would happen if the override fails. So I think it's important for everyone to have all that, and I have copies of those lists for the committee. And then I do have, I did print some copies for the public. I don't know if you, John, thank you. Actually, yeah, somebody else should probably distribute those because Don's probably going to be answering questions. But if you want to just pass them around. There's only about 30 copies because, again, I didn't anticipate this great turnout. I will say that I can also send this document to the union president tomorrow, and that can be forwarded to staff as needed. Okay, so so now it's time for the school committee to start its discussion of this budget. Is there anyone who wants to start?
Oh, I got so much. I can go first, you know?
That's completely fine.
So just as a...
John, you're going to need to be listening to...
First, as a preliminary point, I just want to know if we were to do a reduction of $500,000, foundation budget for fiscal year 27 is $6,669,788. That would put us at a fiscal year 27 proposed budget of approximately $6.35 million. How do we meet our foundation budget if we are not, in fact, spending, excuse me, that much money on our education system?
My understanding is that foundation budget isn't just for Norris. It includes vocational, charter out, and choice out. It also, and then our required net school spending includes those things, as well as school employee benefits and retiree benefits. So without the override, we would I did the calculation, and I think we would be at like 103% of net school spending. So it would be just barely. And the thing to remember about required net school spending and foundation budget, that is meant to be a basement, not a ceiling,
Bare minimum.
right? And so,
Doesn't that affect our chapter 78? Not meeting that foundation budget?
Was there saying
if we didn't meet it, yes, there are penalties that you pay, but we would be meeting it. Barely.
But if the Hampshire, if the regional counts
The
towards
regional
that?
doesn't count for us. Regional
Okay,
has-
okay, I misunderstood
regional
what you
has-
said.
No,
Okay.
it's vocational, charter out, and choice out.
Gotcha.
I will say that I did look at the DESI website, and the most recent information for the entire state was from fiscal '22. And the average, so when you look at net school spending, you look at the percent of making net school spending, and the state average is 100, in 2022 was 127%. Without an override, we'd be at something like 103%, and even with an override, I think it was, and this is like trying to remember a spreadsheet I worked on, it was like 114%. But I also want to tell you that those numbers are based on, I'm not 100% clear that the benefits information that I had was completely accurate. So that's the answer to that question.
That's fair. What are we looking at for kindergarten enrollment for next year? Do we have any idea yet? Any perspective?
I believe we're at 40 without new registrations. Like, we already know that 21 kids are coming from preschool, and then we know what the census says, but we usually gain about 15 to 16 more. So with 3 classrooms, we'll be right about where we are this year.
Okay. I understand we're in financial realities of, a certain point if we can only ask for so much, I still have strong concerns, as I said it last time, that restoration is the bare minimum we need to do. I don't feel one math interventionist and one specials teacher is sufficient. I like the STEAM idea. I don't like the idea of not restoring art. I mean, there is an incredible amount of studies, peer-reviewed studies, that support art in elementary school as being not just art, but being a core principle of education. I don't feel like this is setting us up for success next year or the year after or the year after that. Because we're still running in it, we'll still be running at under what we need. We'll still be running at, continued growth of our budget with no room for movement. And I feel it's insufficient, to be honest with you. I understand we're not, maybe not get the full 10 FTEs back, but 2 seems too little.
Does anybody want to? Yeah.
We can't cut all the reading interventionists. That's not even an option. There has to be some other way. You can't take that,
Well, that is
a huge part of, and I understand that's only if the override doesn't pass. But from what I've heard, the override is being lumped as one big number, and I can tell you right now, I don't have faith in that at all. So with not being pulled out and saying this money is directly for the school, I have very little faith in the people of this town to go for any kind of override, especially if it's all lumped together. So.
There,
I want to address something when I just want to.
But I also agree with Dylan that not restoring the art teacher is also, for lack of a better word, bullshit. And I know that the town is in dire straits and everything else, but this is our children's education. This is crap. And I have to deal with it here, and I'm dealing with it at the high school. I have a first grader that comes home and wants to give his money to the principal to pay for art to come back. I'm failing him right now, and it really... I'm personally not voting for anything that's not at bare minimum. level service to what we have right now, but better be what we had before all of this crap happened last year. Like, this is absolutely insane, and if all of you are really this mad about it, then you need to go talk to the people that actually have the power to change it, because it's all of you in town that either vote for the override or don't, and go to town meetings or don't, because we can only control what we're given. And this is what we're being told we can be given, and this is crap. So I'm glad you all came here, but you're all preaching to the choir. None of us here want to do any of this. The people that matter are not in this room right now. The people that matter are the people that show up at town meetings and show up to vote on the date that they go, whatever it is, the vote in town, May, whatever it is. Because that's the only way it's going to change. This is absolutely disgusting. I literally built a house in this town because of the school system. I'm not from here. This is not where I grew up. I have zero, hold to this place, except for this is where my husband's family was when we built the house. She literally told him today we are moving. This is crap.
So to clarify, this budget that's in front of us right now is level service of what we have, but also it's like level service plus, because it adds those two positions and it adds supply. Just want to be sure. I don't know if I said that, but I want to be sure that that's clear.
But Jen's right, it's not completely restorative.
Oh, 100%, and I'm not, I don't think I said it was, so.
I'm just clarifying, I'm not saying that you said that, I'm just saying it's not restorative, and, we are looking at a crisis in this town. And it's gonna make me cry too, because I came here for the same reasons that Jen did. Every department is being asked to deal with this in ways that are uncomfortable, in ways that are going to lose positions. And there is a reason that it's going to be lumped together, and that's so that we're not pitting the fire department against the school, against the police, against the council on aging, against the library. Every single one of our departments is going to take a hit, a huge hit, if this override doesn't pass. And Kim and I both sit on a budget task force with the town administrator, with Chief Illingsworth, with a few other people. We're doing what we can. I don't love this. I don't love this for any of us. I don't love it for our children. I struggle with the fact that Hampshire Regional has a 5.65% increase, and we don't get something similar. And then that pits Norris against the regional, which is also inappropriate. My concern with all of this is that we start losing kids at Norris. We lose choice kids, and once you lose them, they're not going to go to the regional. They're not going to come in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, even if we had openings. We've already lost some choice kids because we just didn't have room. And then you start this revolving, going down the drain. And that's why we need people to vote. That's why we need you to talk to your friends and get everyone out to do this, because we're calling it a doomsday scenario for a reason.
So in terms of this proposed budget, one of the reasons that we did much less than restorative was because part of what the task force is working on is trying to figure out what kind of an override could pass in Southampton. And one of the concerns is that if the number's too high, it won't pass, and then this doomsday scenario that we just talked about would happen. And so it's like it's a hard balance to strike. And that was part of the rationale for starting with this proposal.
So, can I address one thing that Jen brought up too?
Yeah, and then I want to get to John.
I'm sorry. Sorry, John. I'll keep it brief-ish. I just kind of want to address something that Jen brought up, and I think this is just a level of discussion I've heard around town regarding the last override and regarding this override, which is the money just goes back to the general fund. It doesn't stay with the school. I just want to once and for all put this to bed. That's not how town budgeting works. 100%. So I'm going to give the 30-second, 1-minute overview of town budgeting. Town budgeting works just like our school budget. We have money in and we have money out. Money in comes from taxes, comes from Chapter 70, comes from other state aid, comes from federal government, comes from grants. That's our money in. Our money out is our departments, our police, our fire, our school, our ambulance, our highway department, our administrators, our town hall. That's it. And everything that comes in the inside, more or less, goes to the general fund. That's the bank account. Just like when we all work jobs, if you have 5 jobs, that money goes to your checking account, you pay for it. You don't say, well, my money from my part-time job only goes to pay my electric bill, and that's how that is tied to it. It doesn't work that way. All the money comes in, we divvy it up by department, the money goes out. In order for there to be a reduction after an override, so back up, an override simply says we're going to increase the amount of money in from the taxpayers above what we are statutorily limited to at 2.5%. All it is an increase in the total money in. Where we spend it out is up to the town and up to the town's people and the voters, and that's annual town meeting. We write a budget, we present it, and the town has a chance to vote on where that money goes to. So if we vote on a school budget for fiscal year 26 at town meeting, and we do an override, and that budget goes up based upon the override, and for fiscal year 27, when we come back in fiscal year 28, we're going to be looking at those same numbers. The total money in remains up. Now, in order for that to be taken from Norris, because it doesn't stick with Norris, would require all the voters to agree that we are now going to reduce Norris's budget from the pool of money coming in. So it is not an automatic, we reset it back to the general fund and we lose it. It doesn't work that way. The budgets are set annually and it's from money. Everything comes from the general fund. And I think the reason we don't want to do splitting out and why I think splitting out is a really bad idea is if we broke this up into 3 or 4 votes for each town department, like Kim says, it's going to pit everyone against each other. It also creates a situation where if 1 or 2 of those passes, next year, our total available money is going to be lower, and we're going to have to making decisions. Do we reallocate the funds that we have available? So this
Or do we go back with another override?
With another override. So it's, there has to be an understanding that this is not, voting for an override that includes the school budget does not mean that it's not guaranteed to the school next year. That's part of the budgeting process.
And the approach we're trying to take is we are one town and we have to work together. And this is one of the ways we're trying to do that, is by having it be, to the best of my knowledge, as of yesterday afternoon, the thought is still one ballot question, one amount to take care of that. John?
Well, just since that's where you ended, that's where I'll start. So the select board hasn't discussed this at all. That starts tomorrow night. So the select board hasn't weighed in on how it's going to be. I know there's some input has been said at the task force, but the majority of them have not spoken. And my thing is, I think it needs to be 3. There needs to be 3 votes. Hampshire Regional is on its own, the town's on its own, but within the town, we need to break out operations and the capital. Because I think they're 2 different things. I don't think trying to add $350,000 in capital, throwing that in to make a 1.7 million, so the number for the override is 1.7 million as of this afternoon. So I support the capital, the 350. I just don't think it should be in the operational override number. I think it should be a separate item. That's my 2 cents on that. The budget here that we have before us right now that restores some services, but not all that were cut, is in round numbers 6.2 million, correct? The placeholder in the town budget right now is 6.3.
Right.
So
Do you know what the difference of 102,000 is?
Yes, so when we were in task force, that was the number that, what did you say, the 6.3?
6,328,000.
That was in there originally, like that was sort of what we all agreed we would try to do. And then Aliza and Vito and I had discussed, adding 2 positions back. We could go up to that 6.6.
So
But we had, but by the time this is all coming together, we had sort of already done this.
and it's
So-
moving really fast.
It is
right now.
moving fast.
The clock's ticking. But I guess my question is, and I'm not saying we do, but if we do ultimately move forward tonight on the 6.2, does that mean that we only have to, if the override fails, we only have to cut 400,000 instead of 500? Because they've given us 6.3 to work with, and we're coming in under that by 102. So is it really 500 or minus the 102, so we really only need 498,000? Or by voting this tonight, we're actually consciously agreeing to cut 602,000?
Okay. One of the challenges that Budget Task Force has right now is that Hampshire Regional hasn't voted on its final budget yet, which they're doing on Monday. And so we had not discussed at Task Force reducing that 500,000 to 400,000. And I don't know if any of the thinking on that is so that 100,000 is available should our assessment for Hampshire Regional be more than we think it is right now.
So, again, just my stance on this is last year, right, wrong, or indifferent, you know, you can argue how it got to the ballot and whether there were other items on the ballot that dirtied the water, muddied the water. That's in the past. The override failed. Norris took the $650,000 hit, whether that's what it netted out to because we restored some things or if it was bigger, whatever. It took over $600,000 hit. Hampshire Regional didn't take a hit. The rest of the community, the town, didn't take a hit. We did stop hiring freeze. We did a hiring freeze, but nobody was let go on the town side, outside of the school. Norris is a town department. So it kind of irks me that once again, we're waiting for Hampshire Regional to do something. And whatever, if they do anything more, it has to come off the backs of Norris. So, which is why I'm going to advocate, because Hampshire Regional's budget is the only budget that we either vote up, vote down, or table. And by tabling it, you're voting to fail it, to carry it over. That's all we can do on there. On the north side and the override side, we have options. Yes, it's extra votes, and we have to get the overrides in there. But I don't like leaving $102,000 that the town's already given us as a placeholder. And right, again, my starting comments is, select board hasn't looked at this yet. To say that either we're going to stay with the 6.2, but we want credit for that 102. So we only want $400,000 in cuts. What does 102, if we only did 400,000, what would come back?
Right, well, so the other thing, when I went to the joint finance select board meeting to talk about Norris, a member of the finance committee, when I talked about trying to restore some things, one of the things that a member of the finance committee pointed out to me is that if we bring people back, if we bring positions back, that also adds to the benefits cost for the town. That's not in the Norris budget, but it's a cost to the town. And that, to me, that felt like a caution. Not saying we have to heed to the caution, but that felt like a caution.
Well, it adds money on the town side, but the vice versa, letting somebody go adds to the town side because we're self-funded. So we've got to cover 26 weeks of salary at 75%.
Right.
And plus the COBRA benefits. I mean.
Right, so I'm just telling you, like, these are a lot of things. Now, the committee can choose, again, this is a proposed budget, we haven't voted on anything yet. We can choose to add $102,000 to this budget. We can do that.
Right.
And leave it to, I will say this though, if we choose to do that, I don't know that the superintendent and the principal are ready at this moment to say, and this is what we would use it for. I don't know if you have like your third position on deck or something that you would want to add back, so I don't know if I would want to put them in that position.
We could do it by voting not to use any school choice revolving account money, because we're taking a $100,000 credit. If we zero that
Right.
puts it up, which then leaves the money at our discretion afterwards for the superintendent and building principal to come back and say, now the dust is all settled, this is what we want to spend this $100,000 on.
So what we would be doing then is taking that 100,000 out, so our total town non-revenue would drop to 519, and the town contribution would go up $100,000. Is am I following you?
Right, and then that leaves $100,000 at the school committee's discretion.
Right, which,
Because
I mean, we
for
could
2
do
years
that.
in a row, we've depleted all our emergency reserves.
Right, we could certainly do that, and then they would have the, yes, Vito?
I wanted to respond if it's
Yeah,
time for me to
absolutely.
respond. So one thing I wanted to point out is last year, just to be clear, the high school cut an art teacher, a librarian, and a .5 business teacher, okay? The year before, 2 interventionists, a math teacher, a PE teacher. So in the last 2 years, there's been numerous cuts at the high school. 55% of the high school are Southampton students. So pitting Hampshire against Norris or Hampshire against any other school, really, I can't wrap my head around that. So that's a difficult pill for me to swallow. This year, it's a 5.66 assessment to the town, but it's a $400,000 cut at the high school level. So there are positions being cut again this year. The driver of the costs are insurance premiums and salaries.
Okay?
So
I don't want to get into a debate.
there's nothing to get into, John. This is
Well,
fact. I just want to say the fact. That's all I am doing.
Okay.
I am informing the public, which is my responsibility.
And now I will inform from the town's point of view, whether it's the select board or the school committee member. Those cuts had nothing to do with the town of Southampton's budget. We passed the budget that Hampshire Regional sent down to us last year. The committee up there did those cuts. Those cuts didn't happen, so it's not the citizens got a budget from Hampshire Regional the past 2 years, and those numbers got passed. Whatever the school committee sent down here, they made that decision up here, not the townspeople. Now, had they asked for more money, would they have gotten it? I don't know, right? That's a debate. And as far as the health insurance goes, Southampton did its homework, got in front of this problem, and got out of that arbitrage up there in Northampton. For whatever reason, this Hampshire Regional School Committee did not get there. So again, it's outside our control, but you're right, those are skyrocketing costs. But this body, these townspeople, had no control over that. The only thing we can control is when that body does its job and sends a budget down, yay or nay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Completely understood. But it's disingenuous to say there have been no cuts at Hampshire Regional that were made by the school committee.
I don't think anyone said that.
Okay?
Well, no cuts related to the failed override in Southampton.
I'm just
Oh,
informing.
you're saying like that's the perception?
Correct.
That's what I kind of heard, is that Hampshire
Got it.
no cuts and we as Norris.
Don't be fooled. The cuts that are at Hampshire are just as devastating as they are here, and it
Well, kids go
affects
next.
your
We want
kids
them to have
just the
money.
same.
Like, that's where my kid goes after this.
Right.
It means just as much to me personally.
Yep, and I'm there too. I'm the superintendent, not just of here, but of there too. So this is painful.
Well, one of the things that's tricky too is that 5 towns pay for Hampshire Regional. 4 out of the 5 towns have to approve that budget in order for it to pass. And then even if one town votes it down, if the other 4 towns pass it, the 5th town has to pay, which happened 3 years ago in Southampton. Southampton voted that budget down, and the other 4 towns passed it, so Southampton had to pay. Which is one of the things that's tricky about this is that we have to, typically the town will build in the Hampshire budget into their, like, mandatory kind of spending because of the risk of the other towns all passing it and then having to pay it. I think too, one of the things that to me feels different is that Hampshire is looking at a $400,000 reduction from its level service budget. If the override fails, Norris is looking at a $500,000 cut from level funding. Those are two very different things.
Very. And just the percentage of the total budget is vastly, vastly different. I do want to say something. John mentioned capital. So for those people who don't really know what that means, anything that is a large purchase made by the town, so let's say a new police vehicle, an ambulance, repairs to Norris, repairs to the library, et cetera, that all comes out of something called a capital stabilization fund, which generally gets funded through free cash. Our free cash has dropped precipitously year over year. And so we do not have the money to pay for anything for highway, for example, to pay for new police vehicles, which we need, to pay for a number of improvements we need at Norris. So this, you'll notice his budget includes a little bit for maintenance here and there, but it doesn't include big projects. And that's what that $350,000 would be for. Most of that would go to, we would take out loans and we would repay that. So that money isn't going to go to other departments. Like, it would be used for capital. And the select board will decide, is that operating or is that, something else entirely. But other towns have included capital in their overrides. Dylan? Oh, Jen, go ahead.
No, I just have a question for you guys that were on that finance or budget committee, subcommittee thing. Was there any talk of how to improve the town's revenue sources or finding other revenue sources or anything that would get us out of this circular hole that we're spiraling down into?
The only way to do it really is an override, a permanent override, so prior, 1982, 1984, somewhere in the 80s, two and a half didn't exist, right? It came to fruition from a public outcry and a vote that set that spending, because some towns were doing, cities, were doing multiple digits, 22% increases year over year, 23. So then the population came out and said, you can't go more than 2.5, but here's the mechanism. It's the override. Prove to the citizens that you need to go above 2.5. It was never meant to be, this is the max you can do every single year. You should be able to operate this way for X amount of time, but yes, inflation, because there is no factor on inflation, goes up. But you need to come back and prove it to the citizens that the increase needs to come in there. A $22 million budget and a 1.7 million override, that's a big number, percentage-wise. So other than that, I think property taxes is 74% of our revenue. And then you've got state aid that comes in. Now there's a place where we can get some money, but I don't think Boston's gonna send us anything. I don't think Boston's gonna send anything to anybody more than they have to. And then we have local receipts, and local receipts is less than 7%. And that's what you get from the restaurants and the
cannabis and that kind of thing. And those are barely going up.
Dylan?
Is there any discussion of welcoming businesses into our town ever? What board manages that part of it? I don't know. Because I understand we want to be a farm town in this country, whatever. But at some point we have to catch up and we have to fund this, right? So who is deciding that? And where do we go to get them to make some changes? Because this isn't working. No one's going to keep giving. How do we live off of just taxes? No one can afford to live here. Where do we go? What do we do next?
So the next step along those lines was to hire a land use planner who would look at the property within the town. It was budgeted last year for $62,000. Override failed. We froze the hiring. I didn't check it, but I believe it's been eliminated from this budget.
That's correct.
Yeah. There's nobody to do the work.
What's been eliminated?
I feel like if somebody, I feel like that's just an easy answer. I feel like all of us would work on something like that. We're here. We are ready to do something.
I think there's a million and one reasons. I mean, I could spend an entire night talking about what the hurdles to business development in Southampton are. I think your biggest, but the ones that are overwhelming is lack of infrastructure. When you have no sewer system. Basically, no sewer system. You have a town on one side that has integrated sewers, and you have a city on the other side that has sewers, high-speed data, their own light and electric, and business incentives on a tax base. So it's like, why?
Yeah, right.
That's really what it comes down to. I think if we had developers knocking on town hall door and saying, hey, we want to build here, and our only answer was go away, I would definitely be more engaged in that conversation. I don't get the impression there's a whole lot of people saying, we want to invest here in more than single family or multifamily homes. It's,
Okay, that answers my question, so that's helpful.
to a degree. I did have other questions on this.
Okay, if you have other questions?
Yeah, so I just want to kind of look at some numbers here, and I just kind of just crank these out quickly. I understand we have to look at two different numbers. We have the above the line, which is total budget change, and the below the line of the town contributions. If we look at above the line, 2.5% increase, which to me is the bare minimum that we should be looking at year over year, would put us at $165,600 approximately. We're only like 57,000, 58,000 over 2.5% in our total budget increase. I mean, to me, again, I think we're too low on that. On the town side, which is really the number that I think matters for the purpose of the override, we're looking at 220,000 approximately over the 2.5% increase. If I were to say the 2.5% increase were baked into our budget, which I understand it's not, but I think philosophically it kind of is, that we look at that number at 220,000 over, we're barely restoring 20% of what we've lost. I mean, and it's just, I think moving forward, and if we're not going to vote on this tonight, I think we need to go back and go back to the budget task force, go back to that conversation and find out where can we find a little bit more and what do we need with input from the principal of not just saying, here's what you have, what do you need? It's what do you really need in order to move this to continue to function in the school?
Okay, so some logistical things with that. According to policy, we have to have a number to the select board by a week from tonight.
I'll give you a number if you want a number.
So, so there's that. And so I don't know that we have time to leave here and come back.
Madam Chair, are you saying by the 18th?
Yeah,
Like-
for the 45 days before. We have Southampton
That's
policy.
that's for a
No,
reasonable
this
budget.
isn't the policy manual. I'm not saying law, I'm saying policy. We have a policy, and the policy.
Is that different than the bylaw that's on the books in town?
I don't know, you can look it up.
I don't care about that. Policy's not enforceable. I don't.
I know.
I think- because I thought the bylaw-
I'm a rule follower and I'm
Well,
trying.
Because the
I'm a
regional.
lawyer and I'm telling you,
Yeah.
policy's not binding.
So on the regional,
I know, the regional's a whole different animal, I
no,
understand
but the
that.
regional is March 18th. That's the deadline on that date,
Right,
45 days
right,
prior to
they're
town
meeting on
meeting.
the
However, but departments, the bylaw that was on the books, and I'll check to see if it changed, it had to be in prior to April 1st.
Okay, which I know that the town administrator was hoping to have them earlier than that.
Well, I'd love to have them like 3 weeks ago,
I
but
know. But I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure how much would change between now and another meeting. And I don't know, what I'm wondering is if there are changes we can make tonight to,
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a number if you want a number.
Dawn, did you even do out a restoration budget, or did you only do this one?
she did not, and that was at my direction.
Okay, I was just curious.
To be clear, there were also at least 2, if not 3 committee members who had requested that at the last meeting.
I understand. And that was a judgment call on my part with an understanding of the workload in the business office.
Could you repeat that, please?
What-
Dylan's question.
Oh, he said 3 people, three committee members had requested that the business department, the business office, provide a full restoration budget. I made the judgment call to not pursue that because I was aware of the intensity of the workload in central office, and I guess it was my thinking that I wasn't sure that doing that was a good use of their time because it just felt so impossible to me based on my experience on the budget task force. Okay, so go ahead. What do you want to?
Well, the problem is, and here's the issue. I think we asked, I understand the reluctance to put the work on the budget, on the business office. But I think the expectation was coming into this meeting, we'd have multiple options and not just one. And so it's frustrating because now I can say, you know, I could throw you a number, $650,000 over this, which gets us close to the 800, which would bring us right back to about where we were. We can vote on that, and that's gonna fail. The select board is gonna look at that and they're gonna reject it straight out. I know that for a fact, and they can write their own budget. But I just, it's, I don't know.
Madam Chair, could I maybe?
Yep.
I did, before Don did, I think Eliza was trying to say something earlier. Are
I
you
don't think it's
done?
relevant to what you're talking about
Okay.
right now, so I can wait.
Let's see. With respect to, and I don't know at the select board level what kinds of conversations have gone on, but I mean, there's no sugarcoating any of this. This is a terrible situation. When you talk about a $1.7 million override, that sounds terrible. I just don't know what analysis has been done so that the townspeople understand what that financial impact is. So for example, right now in Southampton, the average single-family assessed value of a home is about $489,000. And anybody who has an average single-family home worth that pays about $6,400 in taxes. A $1.7 million override would add another $675 a year.
Which is about $57 a month.
Which is, you'd go from $6,400 to $7,100. And so I think the question to the townspeople is it worth having your schools at a certain level to pay an extra X amount for the whole year? So I'm sure that somebody's looked at that.
We haven't even, this hasn't even been agreed upon yet in terms of the number.
I see.
And so, all of that will be communicated. That's
Okay.
we've never had a budget task force before in our town.
All right.
So part of it is to look at all of those factors. What do we need?
Yeah.
What will happen if we don't get an override, the extent of the override, and the impact on individual property owners. All of that is being considered, and all of that plays into whatever number we can recommend that we believe the select board will approve and that we can get passed. It's all dicey. It
Yeah.
is dicey.
And the other aspect of that, so how much did you say we would add on another 650? Is that?
I'm not realistically saying that, but sure, throw 650 on there, so that would put us at a flat
Right, so if we did that, that would,
2.3 million, which is
Right,
gonna
push-
put us at a 10 or 12% increase in the your total tax base. I mean, so you're talking your average tax bill is gonna go up $800. I get that.
and so then the question becomes, would this town pass an override that was over $2 million?
I understand that, but that wasn't the issue that I had, and that's not the issue that I'm raising, because the issue is we have one option. We have one option. We have one, and it's, so you ask, what do I want to do? And I can say, I can throw a number at you, but that doesn't move the ball forward. That doesn't fix the problem. That doesn't necessarily fix this. That's throwing money at a problem. That's not fixing the problem.
Well, I mean, we know what the positions were that were cut last year, right? We
Right.
Could I ask a clarifying question?
Yeah.
And this time I'll write it down. The budget that's proposed here it's not a restorative budget.
It has 2 positions and some supply money.
So what is still not in here?
What is still not in there,
One kindergarten teacher, one first grade teacher, an art, well, we're getting a STEAM teacher instead of an art teacher, so we'll call that a wash, I guess.
No, art teacher.
No, I understand, but, I'm just saying we're talking total FTEs. 2 paras, a half a nurse.
That's what's still missing?
Yep, 0.2 interventionist, a 0.5, something I can't read my own writing.
Why don't you just read I have a printed list, would you like?
Go right ahead.
So what we would not, we still wouldn't have a kindergarten teacher, a first grade teacher, we wouldn't have an art teacher. We would have a 4th special, but it wouldn't be an art teacher. 2 paraprofessionals, half a nurse, reading specialist went, dropped by 0.2. Math interventionists were eliminated altogether. Half an administrative assistant. OT went from full-time to 0.75, and speech went from 0.75 to 0.5. As well.
And classroom.
And supplies.
But supplies are back in this.
Supplies, but not to the level that they had been, but it's like about $20,000 in supplies. So those are,
And 2 paras.
I said that.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The OT went from.
From 1.0 to 0.75.
So actually, this budget would, the math interventionist would come back, so cross that off the list. So the math interventionist and an additional specialist teacher would come back.
Only one math interventionist though, right?
1.0 full-time equivalent.
Oh, what did we have, 2 part-time before? Oh.
Madam Chair, I think there's a relevant question the
Yeah, can we take
audience
some
would be willing to
questions at
accept
this
it at this point.
Who's this from where? Oh, sure, go
I
ahead.
just have a clarification question. Last year when we talked about, it was a hope, but for a STEAM teacher, it was 3 to 6. For grades 3 to 6, is the proposal for a STEAM teacher for all grades or just?
My understanding is for all grades.
All grades, thank you.
Okay, hang on one second. Okay.
Is the camera just not working and we're actually broadcasting?
I'm gonna say.
Well, I'm told the feed may or may not be working. I don't know about the cable. Okay.
There's someone coming
People
up
here know.
crying, so I'm guessing it's.
Point of order.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
Kelly.
No, they texted me. I was like, it wasn't you.
Okay. Come back to us,
So-
people.
I would just say that if you're going to want people at home to hear this, you need to come up to the mic. So I'm just saying,
It's okay.
going
No, don't
forward,
do that.
anybody that
It's
wants to
okay.
talk, just talk into the mic so it
School
clearly
committee
gets out
hasn't
there.
finished its discussion yet. We haven't actually gotten to the public yet, but we will. Okay. So John, do you have anything in that list?
That's not gonna be the same, never mind.
I guess my hesitation is because at the end of the day, the Norris budget will be treated as a department budget, that once it leaves here, it's not going to go up.
Right.
It can go down, and not penning the schools against each other, but Hampshire Regional is whatever number they put out Monday night is the number we have to deal with. So the town started with department heads put in their budgets for level services, and if you can make a justification for something new, i.e. the land use planner, put that in. That got us to a $2.4 million ask. We're now down to a 1.7. So I think we're putting in our budget, i.e. for the first time, what's our true ask, and let's not ask for new stuff. I think restoration is on the table. I don't think anything above and beyond, dollar-wise, what we had. Now, the task force knows that if we send that number in, with all due respect to the task force members here, the select board knows that if we send that number in, they're not going to be able to fund it, because they're not going to approve, I don't think select board's going to approve a $2.5 million override. All right? But
You guys better all.
Then it can go down.
Select board and tell them you want them to
Now,
put that on there.
if we know the floor, if we suspect that the task force or the town administrator was going to be comfortable with a $6.2 million vote tonight, even though he gave us 6.3, we could say that that's our floor. So maybe we ask for the restorative budget.
Do you have the figure there for the restorative from the task force stuff? You have your task force documents with you, I think. I don't have mine. Don't you have? Do you have
No, I have the budget that got released today from the town,
From the town. All right. So,
if you know where it is, but.
no, it's all right. I just
Okay.
don't have my task force stuff with me. Okay. So,
I don't know what everybody else's thoughts are.
I'm with John. I agree. I think if we earmarked for 6.3, we're looking at 6.2. And, if we go in at 6.2 or even 6.3, I have a sneaking suspicion we might be coming out under that. I see no reason to at least go to the select board with a minimum restorative budget.
okay.
And, I understand not getting into the debate of art teacher versus STEAM teacher. Ultimately, that to me is an operational decision, not necessarily a school committee decision. I mean, it's something we can talk about as curriculum, but, and guide the school on what we think that should be used for, but ultimately, I think it should be an FTE for FTE restorative budget as presented.
All right. Well,
I agree.
okay. So,
And if it goes down, it goes down, but I don't see it, it's never going up. I agree with John 100%.
all right. So,
Yeah, I mean, I guess before I know we still got to hear from the public, but I'm envisioning some sort, I would like to do a vote tonight. Some sort of vote of that, our minimum with the, if the override was to pass, our minimum is 6.328349, the number that's in the budget number right now, not in the town's budget number, not in Don's numbers, which is higher. And if we just zero out school choice, we don't really need to change Don's budget because that's our floor. But our ask is for,
Higher.
and put it in the override to get there.
Okay, so so our vote, so if we voted tonight, we would be voting on a restorative budget amount, I can't even talk anymore, restorative budget amount? And then as our rep to the select board, you could tell them what our
Well, I'll tell them.
what our basement is?
I'm not sure I have the votes, there's only 4 of us.
I know, but I'm
But
just
yeah.
saying you could.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is, where's Elizabeth? This is just like union negotiations. Let's ask for what we want, knowing that we may have to settle for something lower, but if we can get what we want, we're good. Let's not ask for extra. This is restorative.
So a fourth special, but it would be up to.
I don't want to get, up to who?
Restorative, as far as specials goes, would be restoring art, but that would also be not having STEAM then.
Well, I don't want to go that far. I believe that decision, if they get the money, lies with the superintendent and building principal on which way they go it that way. But
All
again,
right.
that's just my take on it.
John, are you trying to figure out a restorative budget? Okay. All right, so while the business administrator is working on a restorative budget number, we can start public comment. The first person who signed up was Kelly Labrie. If you'd like to come to the microphone.
Hi.
Hi.
Horrified that I have to talk into a microphone, but that's okay. I'm Kelly. I'm a mom, a scary mom apparently sometimes, and a nurse, which makes this also very sensitive to me as well. I get that you're all on the same team here, and I like that we need to, Hampshire and Norris needs to be together because that's our future too. But I guess I wanted to come in here guns blazing, but that's ridiculous, and I know that's not where we are going to get anything done. But I do have some very random questions, I feel like, for you. Hopefully that will make us all understand a little more. I kind of wanted to understand, is there a way to know what projected home values would be if we have all these takeaways from our schools? Because to me, that's like the highlight of Southampton. Whenever you're like, oh, you're from Southampton, the schools are great there. And they were, but if this happens, that's not the case. We're not even comparable to our neighboring towns. You mentioned the STEAM program. Does that mean there's a STEAM program in Westhampton?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So I saw that there are.
And at the high school.
Oh, and
right?
okay.
There is at the high school as well.
Okay. Is there a cost difference if you were to bring in STEAM versus art? Or is that just like a preference, evidence-based question?
It would be about the same amount.
Okay.
One of the part of the thought process there was art is part of STEAM.
Right, okay.
And so that if we could only have one position, it would kind of, in some ways, it would get us, the kids, something that
Okay.
the other schools have
Okay.
that they don't.
Okay. I have.
Kids are at a disadvantage at this
Yes.
point going to the high school and not
Okay.
having the experiences
basics.
that they have
Okay.
in the other towns.
I did notice that there are some grants specifically for STEAM programs at rural schools. I wasn't sure if has that been like looked into?
That's part of how the other schools have.
Okay. So how does that, like, are we just,
I
don't wanna say, like, not doing it,
They have a
but-
great grant writer in central office who looks and
Okay.
evaluates all these and applies for them and tries, I mean, they've done, I understand, there's been some pitting back and forth. I want to be very clear on one thing.
Yeah.
Central office and us, we're a team. We may have disagreements, we may not always see eye to eye on how we want things to go, but the work they're doing up there is tremendous.
Yeah.
And I don't want to dismiss
Yeah,
any
no,
of that.
that
And
wasn't the impression I
I know
got.
you're not
I get
either,
it.
but I just want, these get heated, right? Budget discussions get heated.
It's
especially
emotional.
with
It's our kids, yeah.
And so while we may not, while it sometimes seems we're pitting, I don't want it ever to be perceived by the people of this town that we have any lack of trust in our current central office team and the incredible work they're doing.
and I will say this is another thing that I think needs to be very much addressed in this town overall. The second Facebook, I know it's a nightmare. The second you post anything, there is like no trust. And it's our political climate, but we need transparency. We need like very, very simple, straightforward budgets. And this is what our money is going to. Because no one, you can say it a million times, a million different ways. And they're like, well, where did that money go? Who spent it? What, like, you know?
And to that front,
That's a problem because, and I think the other part is when we put our overrides together, you're making people choose and you're giving them an out almost, because I feel like every conversation I had is, well, I agree, I don't want to defund the school, but, oh, well, we don't need a safety complex. So it's giving people a way out of not having to make a choice. And it is a hard choice. And it's kind of like, too bad. At this point, if our financials were in that such dire straits, we might have to choose school versus fire versus a safety complex versus a senior center. And like, at the end of the day, I pick the schools. I don't pick Norris, I pick Hampshire and Norris, but I pick the schools. And I know other people disagree, and that's why we vote, and we all have a voice. But I know personally that if I go to pick up or my kid's karate class, I can get people to show up and vote. The numbers last override were disgusting to me, that the people who just didn't bother to show up, I think was the most hurtful part of that. But I can't sit and say, well, you need to have your property value go up to have a safety complex when there's no, like, it's just too much. And at the end of the day, we have to make a choice and pick something to fund. And I pick schools. I think, I don't know.
If we could make it really clear
Yeah.
that the public safety complex is not.
I know, but that was a thing last year.
We need to
Last
be
year, the
really
decision
clear.
was made to make it 2 questions.
Yeah.
Right.
So we separated the issue last year.
Okay.
Thinking that I was wrong, but how could people actually vote against the schools?
But
And it
yeah,
happened.
and they did.
So,
They did.
But jump back to the numbers 1.7 now, if you take out the capital, that's 3, and you go down. But what's left after you back the education expenses out of the town's budget is we're sitting somewhere in round numbers of $9 million on the town side.
Okay. So is that the 70A number? Like the whatever we get from 70A funding?
Chapter 70 funds?
Whatever. Yeah, that one.
That's like around, it's school, it's based on the foundation. So you take the
2.8 million for Chapter 70 next year again?
yeah, because the state recognizes that we can't raise
That does
as
not
much as we
all
need,
vote
so they only fund,
Okay.
say, something like 56% of what it is.
Okay.
And we have to come up with the rest out of our property taxes
Okay.
to fund the school to get to the $7.4 million net school spending for Norris.
Okay.
Which, if you take the 6.2 here, 1.2 for vocational, because that's a town responsibility.
Yep.
And then
300
the
for
state,
charter.
because the state intercepts the town's money and pays charter out and
Okay.
school choice out.
Right.
The town gets credit for that. When you get those 3 numbers, we're up over 8.5 million, and we haven't even added in the employee benefits piece, because right now that sits 100% on the town. So if we ever got to the spot where we're sitting within $50,000, every full-time employee at Norris, which is 72 FTEs, 70, something like that?
Yep.
Yeah, who have insurance, so the town's meeting its net school spending limit. But where I was going with the remaining $8 to $9 million that's there, that's got to come from the town side, from the non-Norris town side, which means, in reality, I know we're going to the select board's going to take a scalpel, but you're basically cutting your police department in half. You're eliminating paid on-call fire department. It could potentially be a pure.
No, it's all evil. Like, it's all terrible. It's all ridiculously terrible.
After we just had one of the biggest winter snowstorms of the season.
I mean, they're already bare bones as it is. Like, it's just as terrible. But ultimately, to me, I feel like people move to a town. They're not like, oh, because the fire department is great. They're not. I mean,
But you're going to want that fire department to be created if your house is on fire.
no, I know. I understand that too. And I'm not saying I don't support the fire department, but this is where we're at financially, right? So we have to pick and choose. We have to pick which ones get cut.
Or pass an override.
But has that ever happened in our town's history?
Yeah.
How many times? 3 times?
Well, we've had a few. We had one about 3 years over public safety. We had one
for the
6 years
schools,
ago,
5
I
or 6
think,
years
for
ago.
a pretty big one.
For the
Okay.
school.
And then there was another one probably.
So it does happen.
Okay,
But you gotta get the right
that makes me
number.
feel better.
Yeah, it's the right number, the right messaging. And I think part of the messaging we failed on in the past has been around that these are extraordinary measures. And that's true. I mean, we're not trying to, I don't want to come across as the guys like, yeah, levy more taxes because, more taxes.
No one wants to pay
good.
more
Of
taxes.
course.
It sucks.
But as John pointed out before, 2.5 was never meant to be this is the max you ever raise. It is simply, we are giving you as a town discretion with 2.5%. You just have to justify what you do over that.
Right.
And if you can justify it, I think the legislature and the people would say, if you can justify it, then you should get it.
Right.
It shouldn't be purely only for emergencies, purely only for extraordinary circumstances. Just justify.
And to get ready for this override in advance, the past 2 years, the select board has revisited every single possible exemption and credit that could be given, and we've raised those up. Some of those, the senior citizen income levels hadn't been adjusted in over 35 years. Now they're tied to inflation and they're adjusted up. So
Yeah.
there'll be a bigger group of citizens in town that are on fixed income that won't take this hit. But the money still needs to be collected. So that just
Right.
means those of us
More for, yeah.
that, you know, we still collect the same amount of taxes, just fewer houses. And it means, because there are folks out there, and it's not just the seniors. There's people out there in town that
I know.
a $20 hit or $50 a month.
No, it's a
is gonna
lot.
be
I mean, even the gas, it's everything. It's a systemic thing that is just piling up and falling apart. But I guess those are my biggest questions. I think the biggest thing that bothered me this year personally was that my son kind of missed out on a lot of speech therapy with the loss of those positions. He's in a kindergarten class with 21 kids. He doesn't even know half the kids in the class because I feel like they don't even, there's just too many. There's too many. And one teacher and one para is insane to me for that level of I don't know, that's just too many kids. And then to have pre-K go to one teacher and one para with the needs that pre-K students require, it's just like despicable almost. And you're gonna lose people because I already know of a few peers who have left to Westhampton because they have STEAM and they have 7 kids in their class. And I mean, how do they do it? Like how are the taxes, right?
Well, Westhampton is holding an override vote ahead of their town meeting.
Okay.
Because they are, so this fiscal cliff here is not unique to Southampton.
Right.
Westhampton is also in a difficult position. So when you ask how they do it, we'll see how their override goes.
Okay. Okay. I thank you all. I know
Thank you,
this is
Kelly.
hard.
Okay. Next up is Lauren Ames.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Lauren Ames. I am Union Co-President, Southampton Teachers Association Co-President, and I have been an educator at Norris for 16 years. I've been a classroom teacher in kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. I'm going to read a letter from the Southampton Teachers Association. Dear Southampton School Committee and community members, we are writing to you as members of the Southampton Teachers Association, but more importantly, as the educators who work with your children every day. We care deeply about our students, our school, and the future of our town. At this critical moment, we want to share openly and honestly about the urgent need to fully fund our school. Last year, Norris School faced significant budget cuts that have already had a direct and lasting impact on students and staff. These reductions were not simply numbers on a budget sheet, they drastically changed the daily experience of children in our classrooms. Due to last year's cuts, 2 classroom teachers were eliminated, increasing class sizes in kindergarten and 1st grade. The art teacher position was eliminated, meaning students now only receive PE, music, and library as their special subjects. Math intervention was eliminated, which means Norris no longer has dedicated math intervention support for students who need extra help. 2 paraprofessional positions were eliminated, reducing essential classroom support for both general and special education students. 1 school nurse was reduced to half-time, limiting the availability of an important health resource for our students. 1 administrative assistant position was reduced to half-time, placing additional strain on the daily operations of the school and communication with families. Reading interventionist hours were reduced, limiting targeted literacy support for students developing foundational reading skills. Occupational therapy and speech and language services had hours reduced, affecting students who rely on these services to fully access learning. A kindergarten teacher and a kindergarten paraprofessional were reassigned to other grade levels to help manage staffing needs that were created by these reductions. A special education teacher position was initially eliminated and was only restored through a temporary special education grant, leaving its long-term stability very uncertain. There's currently no teacher supply budget. Norris doesn't have a supply closet. Teachers purchase these supplies themselves and rely on families and the PTO for donations. And there's no professional development budget, limiting opportunities for educators to improve their practice for their students. Even with these significant reductions, teachers and staff have worked tirelessly to maintain high-quality education that Southampton families expect and deserve. However, the system is already stretched to its absolute limits. On Monday, March 9th, this past Monday, the staff at Norris were made aware that the school district is facing an additional $500,000 in cuts simply to meet a level service budget if the override doesn't pass. Level service means maintaining the same services we currently have, which are services that have already been very drastically reduced. After the cuts that occurred last year, there are very few areas, if any at all, where reductions can occur without further impacting students and learning. Although this is before the meeting, this was written, so now we know, but $500,000 would likely mean additional full-time staff cuts and many more, and fewer supports for students. Southampton is a community that should value education. Our school plays a vital role in the strength and vibrancy of our town. As educators, we see every day how important manageable class sizes, student support services, and adequate resources are for learning. When these resources are further reduced, students feel the effects. We share this information not to assign blame, but to ensure that our community understands the real impact of school funding decisions that have in our classrooms every single day. Our goal is to provide transparency about the challenges that we're facing, that the school is facing, and potential consequences of additional cuts. This override is essential for maintaining the quality of education that our students deserve. We are proud to teach in Southampton, and we're grateful to be part of a community that cares about its children. Thank you for taking the time to listen and learn more about the needs of our school, and for hopefully supporting the students of Southampton. Sincerely, the Southampton Teachers Association.
Thank you. Thank you. The next name, the last name is Jensen.
I'm all set.
You're all set? Okay, thank you. Was there anybody else who wishes to speak? Okay, I don't know your name, but please come forward. If you could tell us your name, that would be swell. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jim Wason. Just like Jen, we moved here because the schools were so great for our kids. Both of my boys have graduated now and are out of the house.
Lucky you.
But the one question I had is, when you're talking revenue streams, there is the 0.75% local tax that you can apply to places like Dreamer.
Correct.
To raise money. And also, you can do that for people who use their homes for Airbnbs, because that is considered the same as a hotel.
Correct. So we do I can do it in the order you're doing it, but the cannabis one is done.
It is.
To the maximum allowed. The local meals tax to our two restaurants, Subway and Paisanos, is done. And Airbnb we have taken up. We don't know what the impact would be because there are only 2 registered in town, and you need a minimum of 3 before the state will release the data. But that's the only one that's not currently in place that I'm aware of.
Okay. I just
and that would fall into our local receipts, the 7%.
Okay.
Total collections.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ashley?
Hi, everybody. I'm Ashley Stone. I'm a parent of a kindergartner at Norris. I just want to say first to everyone, thank you so much for all the time and effort that you've put into this and all of the great points that you raised. And a special thanks to our school staff. We also moved here. I'm from California. We don't have family in the area. And even in our 3 years at Norris, there are staff members who now feel like family and treat my child in that way, and she responds the same way. And it's a beautiful community to be a part of. I do think this is a really challenging time, and I am worried that the override is going to be a Herculean effort to pass. But with that said, I, as a community member, am pretty committed to do everything that I can to encourage that, and I would invite everybody to join me in some grassroots movements to spread the word around our town about how important this is. Knowing the type of effort that I think it's going to take for our town to pass this, I would encourage you to consider proposing a completely restorative budget. I think if we're going to put in all the effort to get people to show up and vote, to me it seems, I know it's not a negligible amount, the difference between the increase in taxes between both, but I know that there are families that will get behind getting back the Norris that we feel like we were promised in just a few years ago, and that has slowly disappeared. And so I would encourage you to consider that a little bit more thoroughly. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ashley. Come on up, Aaron.
Hello, my name's Aaron Sims. I have a couple questions, but also first one comment, the question about raising money. I just feel like I should mention this. In a prior career, I developed solar projects. We had one, the company I worked for in town, that was proposed, and there's a lot of movement against that project. That is a potential revenue source. Just want to throw that out there for people. If you're interested, go to the planning board hearings. Just an aside. My question, of the 1.7 million, if 500 is coming from Norris and 300's from the capital, do you know what the rest is? Just curious.
In broad strokes, it's going to come from police, fire, highway. Library.
Council on Aging.
Yeah. My personal opinion is I'd prefer Norris get as much of that as possible, just to express that. It's been mentioned before, but I think we have to do a good job, grassroots movement, and all of us have to do a good job of explaining to people how most people's homes are their primary, largest asset. We have to be talking about how school quality does impact the value of your home, and voting against any sort of override would be a vote against your own assets. I think that's obvious when you say it, but a lot of people don't think that way. And we're in a world right now in this country where it's just about selfish, it's about me. So I think we would be more successful if we took that messaging approach. It was mentioned the narrative on Facebook. That's unfortunately where a lot of this gets discussed. I've been at meetings where you talked about people getting angry at you at the dump. There is this terrible conversation happening online, and we need to be involved in it in some way in pushing back. So I don't know how exactly to do that, but I wish there were responses to some of the comments that are made. And last, I have a question. Last year, were there any learnings from the failure?
Well, part of this conversation that we're having now is happening much earlier this year than it happened last year. And that was one of the takeaways from last year, was that we had a sense that perhaps if we'd gotten this message out earlier, that there would have been more time for people to be informed and educated and people could make more informed decisions, and one of those decisions being deciding to show up at the election. So that was a learning, was that we're doing this. Last year, it was just before town meeting or at town meeting that we said what was at stake and what would be cut. And now we're doing this 2 months ahead of town meeting. And also in part because I've heard from people since then that we said we would cut these things, and then the override failed, and nobody thought we cut these things. I mean, people who have children in the school know we cut these things, but other people in town were like, oh, wow, didn't know you actually did it. Yeah, I know, right? But that's what happened. So we're really trying hard to get the message out earlier. That was the learning for me. I don't know if anybody else has.
I think the other two things is that timing had something to do with it, but it's also difficult because in our capacity, unless we're sitting here in a public meeting, we really can't talk about it in detail. If you stop us on the street as a private citizen, we can talk. But there's also certain things that we're aware of, or I'm aware of, sitting on both sides, that so far I only know through executive session. So even if I wanted to tell you, I couldn't tell you. So you almost need to get the populace.
Does that mean that my comment about Facebook, you guys can't respond?
No, that doesn't mean that.
What do you mean, to people's questions?
To people's complaints, to people's vitriol about...
Like, say if there was a question about the school committee, or Norris's school committee, by statute, only the chair can answer that question on behalf of the committee. I could go on there all day and say, I'm private citizen John answering this, and they're not going to fall for it.
But also, as the chair of the committee, I'm only allowed to give factual information.
Correct.
As a private citizen, I can share my opinion. So there would be times when I could go in there and say, as the chair of the school committee, I can tell you that, that idea of X dollars being for this, it's actually this.
And here's the source
That's
document.
Right, and that's what I can do. As a private citizen, last year, I wrote a lengthy Facebook post about why I voted in favor of the override, but that was my personal opinion, and I never mentioned the fact that I was in the school committee.
We met the first time after it failed, and I started, I attended a PTO and then started coming to these meetings, and the thing that I feel is, I might have missed it, but I don't think there was as much talk about it beforehand.
It wasn't.
It was a short window.
That's why we're doing this now instead of waiting.
So,
Yeah, if I can say a couple things. So I was involved in the successful passing of the override 7-ish years ago. It was a grassroots effort. PTO was involved, teachers were involved, teachers were wearing t-shirts, we had yard signs. Teachers have to be careful with what they do at work versus, things have to be done at home. They can do a lot as private citizens as well. And the PTO was very involved. Again, there are definitely some restrictions. So I think a lot of it will depend on people like you, people in this room saying they want to do something. The other thing I would say is that last year Belchertown successfully passed an override, and we are essentially planning on using their model of factual information on the website. Here's what happens if the override passes. Here's what happens if it doesn't. Here's what we lose if it doesn't pass. We haven't done that as a town before. We can be as factual as we want. We just have to be very careful about using town resources and offering opinion. So we will also have several informational meetings, one on probably a weeknight and one on a Saturday morning. All the department heads will be able to answer questions. So things that we haven't done before.
And today, I don't know if you saw it, but today the town administrator did a live stream on Facebook on the town's page, which we do control the town page. We do not control, no elected person controls the community forums. Right. Those are two private citizens, and they have administrative rights over that account. So, but he did one. Today's breakup was, here are the revenue sources. Here's how we make up our pie of revenue. Here's where it comes in, went into great detail. It also was the launch of the document. The document's now on the town webpage, fiscal year 27 budget. you can get that. He's going to break it up into sections and start going for the education people. 5 people watched it. So, I mean, we can do a better job at
We need
that.
to do a better job of getting, I mean, I'm on the budget task force and I didn't know he did that today. So, you know.
Can I, two things on that, sure. Just want to, because one of the complaints, or not complaints, one of the things I heard repeatedly is I didn't know there was a vote today. So we're going to start this now. May 2nd's town meeting, 10 a.m. at the William E. Norris School. Town election is May 19th, Tuesday. Put those dates on your calendar now. I will be repeating them a lot.
And Dylan, how many votes does it take to get an override passed? How many times you got to vote on it?
You can vote many times as you want.
Well,
That's a joke. That's a joke. Please, joke.
He's the state lawyer. It's got to pass the town meeting first.
Town meeting first, and it has to go to the public. So you have to come, don't assume that the town meeting is going to pass it. We need parents there.
Right. And is that still opening day for baseball?
No, it's not.
Okay.
And then the second half of that is going to be, just because it passes at town meeting and everyone says, oh, look at the massive support we have here, I don't have to show up on the 19th to vote for it because everyone's going to support it. Nope. 72 votes. That's what lost by last year. 72 votes.
Traditionally, at town meeting, because you have to raise your hand, everybody votes to put it on the ballot.
Yeah.
Just because they support it at town meeting you can't assume they're going to support it at the ballot box.
And there's usually like barely 100 people at the town meeting.
Right. Well, so we need the turnout. The second thing I just want to address, just because that's something you said, and the lovely Facebook group, which I know is always factual and never leads into miscommunication or misinformation, but that $1.7 million number, that's the number today. So it's not, so just so you're aware, it's not that we have $1.7 million override and we're divvying that up between the departments. That number could very well change and likely will change between now and town meeting. So that's part of the discussion we're getting to today. So
my point is I'd rather 1.7 million more go to Norris and not have the other 0.6 go to the things that it was going. That's all I was saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying, so that number might be 1.7, might be 1.9, might be 1.6, could be, who knows? I mean, that number is still in flux. That's all I'm saying. I just don't want people thinking that 1.7 number is now set in stone and that's the only thing we're debating. So
Facebook told me it was 2.4.
It was a week ago. No, a week ago it was.
Same.
A week ago it was, yeah. So,
Could be again.
That was factual a week ago in time.
I read today.
I have a critique of last year that I want to suggest. The town meeting, the way that the override was presented, I thought was very confusing, and I'm happy to help draft that message in the future if you'd like.
That has been discussed.
Okay, I'll move on.
No, I'm just, I didn't mean that to cut you off. You
No,
can
it's
say what you
fine.
need to say, but there's been a general understanding that that has to be communicated more clearly this year than it was last year.
Great. And then the point that you made, I've heard too, that has caused some confusion at the PTO once it was mentioned how teachers felt like they couldn't say anything. Who's the arbiter of that? How can we?
State Ethics Commission.
Right. A public employee.
Massachusetts.
Yeah, so as a public employee, during work hours on government property is restricted.
Using government resources.
Right, so standing on the school grounds at 12 o'clock when you're supposed to be doing those, if you're at the school at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, school's out.
Fair, I think.
Fair game.
Yeah,
What can we do?
To that point, I sent a message to
It was
all.
a great message. That was such a good email.
I don't know which one you're talking. You're talking about the Friday
Or
message?
email, whatever your email was.
Friday one I sent, and that was kind of a bring us together and let's think about what we can do to move forward. Here's the information. But I sent one to teachers only about the ethics question because in a conversation at another school, there were questions, what can I do? How can I? And what is the line that's drawn? So I actually called the State Ethics Commission. I had a conversation about myself, just so I understood my role, so that I could really do what needs to be done from my position. But with respect to teachers, I shared with all the teachers a message from the state ethics. I've shared resources with them, and ultimately it's you police yourself. And there's a link in that message so they could reach out and say, hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z. They could get a formal response that would provide them with what they needed to make a decision.
And they even have a hotline. I use it fairly regularly because as a state employee and a town elected official, and with a immediate family member in the school system, which is part of it. I have a lot of ethics questions that need to be answered. So, that being said, they have a hotline. They have a lawyer for the day available. You call, you leave a message, they will call you back. They are awesome. They are really a really good group of people and will provide you advice. It's free. You're not limited to like one call per day. So, absolutely avail yourself of that if you have questions about what you personally can do in your role.
Thank you.
And for the State Ethics Commission, it's Advisory 11-1 that talks about what public employees can and can't do in terms of elections and stuff. Do you have a number yet, John?
I do. I just wanted to see if I could step out in the hall
Yep,
with you
go ahead.
and review this and then tell you
Yes.
the number.
Can you take over as chair for the moment? Thank you.
I was not planning on speaking. I hate public speaking, so my heart rate. Yep. I'm Jen Labrie. I have 2 sons at Norris. My husband went to Norris, went to Hampshire Regional. So I'm from Northampton. So grassroots, I know you spoke of that. Just gonna throw out some ideas. I don't know what teachers can do. I know Northampton had like a Save Our Schools years ago. I didn't know if somebody wanted to step up. I have no marketing background. I have no any of that, but I'm willing to assist with getting the facts out. So we have printout, we have marketing, whatnot, and everyone can put that on Facebook as needed. Also, what are the rules for like door-to-door or businesses or the dump? I know there was somebody for a public safety complex
It's
last
standing
vote.
just outside the gate. That's
Okay.
public property.
Okay,
So the dump is, and that person was not a town employee or a state employee. They weren't on any,
and I am none of those.
okay.
So,
So outside the gate, and when people have to stop and look left and right, and if they have their window down, you happen to talk to them and they stay there, free access. But if you're inside the gate, now you're on town property.
okay. All right, so maybe,
That particular,
That's
the parent pickup line on the sidewalk, a PTO person going down with the flyers,
Okay.
there's 100 cars.
writing this down.
Well,
I'm more concerned, like, I think we're all on the same page in this room. I'm not concerned about us. I'm concerned about getting it out to everybody. Like, you go on Facebook, and I'm just appalled by the misinformation and the fighting, and nobody wants to listen to actual facts. So getting like a paper out there where people can take it home, they're seeing somebody face to face, they're talking to somebody who has children in the school, who have had family graduate from the schools, will make a bigger impact than fighting on Facebook, is my thought. So we just need to organize that. If any parents are willing to do that with me.
and I suspect the task force is going to come up with like a double-sided page. Like here are the cuts, both Norris Town and whether Hampshire, well, Hampshire already has one, Hampshire Regional, but that, again, if everyone's saying the same message, if it's the same, well, how come this one says it's going to be a 0.5 cut?
Exactly.
And this is going to be a 0.0?
So when will those numbers come out so that we can have something that's like focused on the schools so that it's not a bunch of
So tomorrow?
different
We need to vote
info?
on the budget.
Yes.
And then it goes to select board.
Yep,
And
so select board will
also be
start tomorrow
considering
night.
The rest of the.
But then we need to wait for Hampshire Regional's Monday night numbers. So I'd say probably 2.5 weeks.
Okay. I'm just going to throw out a bunch of stuff so that everyone's on the same page here. So I know you spoke about how much it would cost monthly per taxes. Would that info be also available? So that's something we could write down. Can we get a nice write-up about the general fund? Because I see that like, oh, well, it's going to the school this year, but next year it's going to go wherever they want it to, when that's not the case, correct?
Town Finances 101, yeah, I think I don't know, I can talk to the select board, I know a member, about if we want to draft something.
Yeah, but if I put my name on it, a certain group of people aren't going to believe it anyway.
Wait, yeah. Nobody has to put their name on it.
Well.
That's fine. Let's see. I think on Facebook last time somebody actually looked at like how many overrides we've tried to pass and how many actually passed, and it's really like no numbers. It's very low.
I have that.
You have that? So also, I would like this in our write-up. This is just kind of like throwing everything out right now so that everyone is aware. Here you go.
Two were 1991, and 1992.
Yeah, so it's been years. All right. I think that was, yeah, I just would like fact checking. So when we, as parents, although this is very early in the stages here, have this information, we can have it fact checked so that if somebody comes to us and says, where did you get this? Are you just pulling this out of nowhere? We can say, we spoke to the committee members, we spoke to whoever in the town, this is what's going on.
On the website.
Okay.
On the town website.
Okay.
All of it will be there.
All right.
So
I think that's all I
that
got.
will be the source that you can pull from in order to develop your communication materials.
Okay. All right, well, that's my throw out for.
Go ahead, come on up.
I wasn't going to do this either, but.
All right.
My name is Michelle DeRocher. I am mom of two children in this district, one in Norris and one at the high school. And I've also been in public education for 22 years. And I am one of a very small minority in this town who is a single mother and a homeowner here. And it's very expensive, so I can see both sides of that coin and the tax raise and all that. However, you know, given my position and all of this, I also am concerned, this hasn't been brought up at all, about employee retention. So not to get too personal, but 2 years ago in the district that I teach in, we lost 140 teachers, massive district, due to unforeseen budget cuts. And we were all on the chopping block. I didn't know until the last day of school if I had a job, if I could afford my mortgage. I also drive an hour to go to work because I can't afford to work here. So quite honestly, if I could teach at Hampshire, you better believe it. I love Lauren, I love this administration, I love everybody in this town. I would teach here till the day I die, but I cannot afford to do so. So I've honestly compared the numbers, and there is a $30,000 difference to do the same exact job. Can I afford to, would I want to drive up the road? You better believe it. But I can't afford to do that. So I'm concerned because after the cut of 140 educators and different people who were tenured educators that didn't expect to have a cut all of a sudden, now we had people jumping ship because people don't want to work in a place like that. There's a reputation, now there's uncertainty. If you have a job next year, what's the new contract going to look like? Do we have job security? And so if this was me personally, I don't know that I think I'd be looking elsewhere. Because if I could make, I know, and dedicated individuals are not going to do so, and many of us wouldn't do so. But it comes down to finances, and our economy is terrible. You know, and you're looking at like, you know, the rise in filling your oil tank just rose $1 a gallon in a week. And so you think like those are expenses, unforeseen expenses that we have to kind of budget for. And when you're on a single income, there's a lot to be said for that. And so I think like that's a big concern. That hasn't been said is what if we lose a percentage of these educators, and then what's the threshold at which we can hire new? Is there a ceiling? So if someone's coming in at the top of your salary scale, they're not even gonna get an interview because they can't afford to be hired. So then we're losing quality educators to get kids straight out of college, no offense, but there's a humongous difference in the quality of education from someone who has that experience and working in different places and experiencing all of that has gone on with technology and such. How are we supporting that if we cannot afford to hire quality educators? You know, just look at a neighboring town, look at Holyoke. How do we hire quality educators in a place that has been failing? But if we look at a rural district with almost identical issues, only in a different capacity, how are we going to ensure retention? So that's a question that I have. I don't even know that there's an answer to it. I think it's just something that needs to be considered. So thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks.
Is there anyone else? So we're going to just take a few-minute break so that Kim and Dawn can finish their conversation.
Okay.
And anyone needs to know where the restroom is, I can direct you, and so.
5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you all for your patience as we worked to develop the numbers for a restorative budget in real time. And I just want to say kudos to our business administrator and our accountant for working together to make this happen.
I got it, it's on the other side of you.
So before I get into the work we were just doing in the hallway, Margaret has something she'd like to say.
Yeah, there's two things I want to say, because I want to clarify what I said earlier about Hampshire Regional, because I don't think I said it right. First of all, I want to thank Central Office, because the work you've been doing is yeoman's work. 2 regional budgets, 3 town budgets, it's intense, and there's been a lot of hard work done there. My frustration has never been with school committee Hampshire Regional, administration of Hampshire Regional, none of it. I was on the Hampshire Regional School Committee for 10 years. I respect Principal Holtz, and she has done an amazing job with the budget. If you come on Monday, you'll see what she's been able to do to lessen the impact on kids. My frustration is that we get pitted against each other. My frustration is when there's a $400,000 cut in a $17 million budget, that feels very different from a $400,000 cut in a $7 million budget. That's where my frustration is, that we're not funding our schools properly. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that.
Thank you. Okay, so here we go.
I broke my glasses, so if I look like this.
All right, everybody get your pens out, because you're going to need to write these down, because we can't print them in real time. And I'm also talking to school committee. So here we go. Margaret, you're getting stopped because you're going to seriously. Look, this is important, and I'm not going to be able to look at you.
See.
Okay, here we go. What is it? 1, 2, 3 eyes on me.
Do it,
I used
Vito,
to be
do
a
it.
teacher. Okay.
It's a chalkboard.
Look at that. Okay, here we go. Here we go. All right, a restorative budget. The total amount of a restorative budget would be $7,324,437. That's a total budget increase of $701,718 for an overall percent increase for the budget of 10.6%. Assuming we keep the revenues the same that we already have in the budget, which was the 619, don't write that down. The town's contribution to the budget would be $6,705,437.
Say that one more time.
$6,705,437, which would be an increase over fiscal 26 of $845,855. And that would be a 14.44% increase in the town's contribution to the Norris School budget.
845.
Okay, and that is to restore.
Before you go, guys, that's replacing these numbers on here, correct? That's
Correct.
not
So
in
it
addition to.
Right, it includes,
Replace it.
right, what
Okay.
we did was we added to, what we had in the budget, we added, like, the things that were missing to the number that was in the fiscal 27 column for
And I know that saying is very oversimplification, but I just want to make sure we're very, very clear on
Right.
it. If we were looking at page 1,
So, right,
and we were to take the number that says fiscal year 27 proposed budget, that would be that 7,324,4377.
Correct.
The percent change would be 701, 718,
Yeah.
and the percentage would be the 10.6%. That is not on top of what is here, that is in replacing of that.
correct.
And then the same thing in the line below, I know I'm being oversimplistic here. It is replacing the 622644 with 6705437, and then following through from there. It is replacing those numbers and not on top of those numbers.
Right, correct. And that was really good clarification. Thank you for doing that. Okay, and so those were the dollar amounts that we calculated would replace. So we had included in the original budget tonight, we had included replacing, restoring a specials teacher and restoring math interventions. So this would restore all of those positions that were listed in what was lost when the override failed last year. And it also would restore, you don't have to write any numbers down for this. It would also restore supply lines, okay?
So this would mean if this theoretically passed, we'd be hiring two, like the kindergarten teacher back, the first grade teacher back.
So what I believe we would do is, I think we would leave it to the superintendent and the principal, but Eliza, based on this, I mean, would you hire back what you had to eliminate last year? So there you go.
Well, contractually you have to as well.
Go ahead.
Just kind of, if it passes all the way at the end, the override passes and we get it, I would assume that there's going to be a July or August, probably a July special meeting of the school committee where they would come back and give us the official, here's what we're doing. Yes, we're not doing art, we're doing STEM, the whole thing. So there's a little wiggle room, but that would be the path they would go down.
Right. Gotcha. Right, so once the override, well, first of all, just a couple of things. This is what we, if we choose to approve these new numbers tonight, this is what we will put forward to the select board. What they do with it is what they do with it. So we don't necessarily know that this is what they'll do.
The same advocacy that happened tonight would need to happen at the select board levels too. You can't, we just can't assume that they're going to watch this meeting. And
right, so when hold on a second, Dan. So when that select board meeting comes up, do you know when that's going to be?
For the final one?
Yeah.
No.
All right. So we'll try to keep on top of finding out when that select board meeting is and communicating it.
And that's a data point. That's a factual data point that can certainly make the superintendent's update in an email, because you already started that on Friday. Here are the important dates, right? These are it's just an education piece, not one way or the other. Just, if you want to speak, speak. So we can use the resources for that purpose.
Right.
And part of the message was, as these meetings happen and presentations happen, I would update the links so that people are able to see Southampton and the final presentation at Hampshire, et cetera. And then we queried each of the towns to get dates from them. Some towns were very kind of effusive in what they gave us and some weren't. So we're trying to get as much information as we can to put out there.
And so, and to Jen's point that she made a couple hours ago, I'm really grateful that you're all here and that we could hear from you and that you could hear from us, because I think it's important for that whole transparency piece for you to be able to come and talk with us and hear directly from us. But what John said is true too. You're going to have to show up at select board meetings as well, because coming and talking to us, you've got, people, well, Margaret and I had children who went through Norris and Hampshire. You have 3 parents on this committee. Margaret and I were also both teachers. So in terms of preaching to the choir, like, you're kind of already doing that. And we're not the people you have to convince.
Would it be helpful for us to email our select board members?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Put those keyboard
and
fingers
those emails over. There's a group distribution email, so they all get it.
So yes, it would absolutely, I mean, I think when you're talking about grassroots, that's the kind of thing you're talking about, right? Aaron?
Do you have a sense of what that would be per household per year? The 845 or the 701?
Well, we don't know what
we don't know what the final override number looks like yet.
So that we can't say that yet.
Can I say?
But that, hold on one second, I'm just gonna say this. That will come out. One of the pieces of information that generally comes out once the select board starts working on these things and once they decide on what the number would be, all that kind of information comes out. And the work that the budget task force is doing is to really put it in very understandable terms.
So 1.7 million was $600-ish, is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Don, you want to say something?
I wanted to say two things. One, just in the spirit of full disclosure, we just restored the budget for the elementary school. But now, on the municipal side, you'd have to factor in 6 benefits at whatever that is. So we just want to be clear on that it's not only impacting here, but it's impacting the municipal. And then the other thing is, anybody here could go to the Department of Revenue site and find a tax calculator, and it says for all municipalities, you just have to select Southampton, and then you have to put in, guess what the override is, 1.7, 2 million, whatever it is, and then you could, it shows you what the impact is on the average household, et cetera. So you just have to put one number in. First, you have to find the place, and then you just have to put one number in. And when you put that number in, it just does all the calculations for you. It's very easy. You can say, oh, how much was just the school? How much was the whole thing? So everybody can do that themselves. And I think doing it is a really good exercise. I encourage that, because you don't need a math interventionist for that. You just need...
That's good, because we don't have one right now.
Right. No, you just really need to find the site.
Thank you. And that site also, it also tells you, like, at varying property values, it tells you the impact. It's not just, it doesn't tell you just the average, it lists a whole bunch of them.
I was gonna say, I can't advocate for anything here, but I would just say factually, if a private citizen, especially one who is technologically savvy in setting up listservs, wanted to collect email addresses from concerned citizens for distribution of information and advocacy materials, that would be permissible. And you can get and collect that information either by, contacting the chair about questions about specific dates, or if you by looking at the town calendar or looking at the emails that are coming up from the superintendent, especially if they're community members who are not necessarily members of the Hampshire regional community, but do support the schools, which there are many of. That would be a way to, yeah, that's a way to, another way that if a private citizen did want to take a position of helping, something like that could be very helpful.
And don't ever apologize to me for saying, contact me, because that's the job. So contact me. Okay?
It was a half-hearted.
And teachers who live out of town are welcome to come to town meeting. You won't be able to vote, but you can talk. You can come.
Yes.
You have to sit in this.
You can't talk.
You can't talk.
Right.
But you can show up in your t-shirts.
Yep.
All right. So go ahead.
Can I make a motion to close public comment?
I did.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yes, has everyone asked what they want to ask and said what they want to say? Okay, public comment is closed.
I make a motion that we pass a restorative budget with a total expenditure budget of $7,324,431. 437, and that we reduce that request by $619,000 as defined on the cover sheet of our 3/6/2026 proposal, reducing the ask, or creating the ask for the town to $6,705,437, which is a year-over-year increase of $845,855, or 14.44%.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So I just want to point out that 14.44 is a big number when we started at 10.6. But one of the reasons for that is last year, the school committee wiped out all its reserves for the most part, because we used $160,000 of one-time money that we're never going to get again, so that the cuts didn't go as deep. So now we got to get, that's part of the restorative that's got to go back. That's all I want to clarify.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion passes unanimously.
Make a motion to close the public hearing?
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of 2/11/2026. Get going here. 8:20.
Don't clap yet, we got a lot of work to do.
Yep, thank you, and really and truly, thank you all for coming and for sticking with us through the
We
entire
got 2 hours
year.
left.
If anybody has any interest in leaving their name and phone number for folks that would like to coordinate, you can come over and chat with me and take your information down.
If you could chat out in the hallway, that would be helpful, because we have to conduct the rest of our meeting.
Okay, so now I want to know how much
That's all going to come out tomorrow.
more I can tack onto this override. So if I'm going big, I'm going big. Let's go big or go home here, Vito. To get, I have a feeling people are going to push for a level service budget on Monday.
Literally every one of them.
So you're immune.
So in the words of, who was it? Oh, is it, Roger? I mean, you guys now?
Oh, yeah, for the whole thing. I mean, I don't want Hampshire to lose all that stuff either.
I am hearing it, riding that line right now with the amount that I'm probably gonna, I could buy myself.
Margaret's right, in an $18 million budget, 400,000 isn't a huge percentage. Warren's really trying to look at supplies and things that are gonna fall away from the kids. Probably the biggest thing that couldn't.
It's 8:40. All right, folks, sorry, we have a full meeting left. This is phase 1 of a lot more to go.
Thank you all
Thanks so much.
Okay. Whew. Elizabeth, are you gonna stick with us?
Figure out what else I'm learning.
You're already here.
Okay, so John made, okay, so the public hearing, by the way, closed at 8:20. So in case we need to keep track of the time there.
I didn't know we had to do two different things.
All right. But listen, the rest of this is not.
No, I know, but I didn't realize this was like a whole separate, like, meeting of its own.
Yeah, that had to be posted publicly, and like there's a whole bunch of
I thought
stuff.
it was just all of the meeting.
Okay.
Quickly, I hope.
Okay, so here we go. John made a motion to approve the minutes of February 11th.
Sounds good.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No, aye.
All in favor?
Aye. I feel like I'm back in the chair.
Okay. Case, Elizabeth, did you have any public comment to make, or are you good?
I'm good.
All right, warrants have been handled electronically. Vito, any announcements or correspondence?
No.
Okay. Principal's report is in the packet. Eliza?
Yes. Our current enrollment is 481 students. That's 3 more than last month. We got 2 new preschool students and 1 in another grade, and I don't remember which one it is, unfortunately. Storyteller Motoko performed for all classes last Thursday. It was fantastic. This was a grant through the Mass Cultural Council and the Southampton Community Council, Cultural Council.
My kids are very excited.
It was really good. It was really nice to have the school, the students together again in the cafeteria. Not all together at the same time, but in chunks. March 13th, this Friday, is a half day of school for professional development. I will be going over our our school protocols for discipline procedures, bullying investigation, and our school rules. Just a redo for everybody. It's been a long winter. At the end of the day, Town Administrator Scott Zebak will be coming in to do a presentation on changes in our insurance options so that our school employees and anyone in the town from the town hall who wants to attend is invited. I think he's inviting them. He will do a presentation and have time for questions and answers. And our grade 6 math teacher, Mrs. Finney, did some really great lessons about ratios in a whole unit, and then she had students use scale drawings and models to design different building structures. She connected math, art, and everyday life. Students created scale drawings of candy or snack wrappers, which you can see displayed in the front foyer. She did a really nice job. Students love this project. They did the same thing last year. I really like it. It incorporates some of the art that we don't currently have at the school. And then Ms. Bree Lunny, who was here tonight in the audience, is our special education teacher at Norris, who was nominated and selected by myself and her peers for the Pioneer Valley Excellence in Teaching Award. She will be celebrated at the Log Cabin in May. So Bree's been at school a little more than 10 years. She does a really nice job.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Eliza? Nope. Superintendent's report is in the packet. Anything you want to highlight?
The only thing I want to highlight real quick is that I was in the classroom for Miss Finney, and that was an awesome lesson. The kids were just thoroughly engaged, and it really speaks to the interdisciplinary kind of project-based learning that you can do when you bring art into a math classroom or science into a technology classroom, etc. And I saw, what was her name again?
Bree Lunny?
No. The storyteller.
Oh, Moko.
Motoko. I was there for that event. It was awesome. The kids were loving it. And it's just the things that happen at Norris are special. And I'm really glad that we had the representation here we did, because it shows that there's a lot of people engaged.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Vito? Chair's report. I'm not sure I can talk much anymore, so no, seriously, as a chair, I don't have a chair's report. Jen, Hampshire Regional.
It was relatively like tonight, and as far as there was lots of people telling us that they want us to fully fund support a level service budget. I don't feel like there's much other than that.
There's crying.
There was.
I didn't cry at that meeting.
Others did.
There's a lot of passionate presentation around programming at
it was
the school.
a solid plus hour of public comment, which was great. But again, this is the part of these types of meeting that I hate, is that they're preaching to the choir. These people, especially at Hampshire Regional, are not the people. We don't want to cut these things. We don't want the kids not to have all of the things. They need to go to their towns, and those people are the ones that need to hear it. But
Is that it?
that was it.
All right, thanks. PTO, I went to the PTO meeting last night, and I shared not as much information as tonight, obviously, but I did let them know. And I did see PTO members were actually here tonight, which was fabulous to see, that they attended. As far as PTO business goes, I do want to point out that the Thunderbirds night for Norris is March 14th. Yes, is that Saturday? Yeah, it's Saturday. There is still time to buy tickets if people are interested in doing that. It's actually a really nice fundraiser for the PTO. And I mean, that's the highlight of that. I will say that they're still working on some other stuff for this year. And then I also know, in case anyone is watching this that is interested in PTO, they will be looking for a new board of directors for this coming school year. So, if people are interested in volunteering for something, there's an opportunity. Okay, Margaret.
Council is meeting on March 24th.
We are.
March 24th. All right.
We'll have a report next time.
Yes.
Okay, Dylan, CES.
Executive director negotiations are still ongoing, and the search, I don't know, it's a mess. Anyway, next board meeting is the 18th. I hope to get to some actual business.
Okay.
They chose someone.
They did.
I thought they hated who they chose.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was in the Daily Hampshire Gazette who they chose.
Yes, it was.
I think it was. Okay. Yeah, select board update? Anything?
We're working on the budget.
Really? I had no idea. Okay. All right.
Done.
Believe it or not, we do have a budget and finance team update about the current year.
Okay, so I'm going to try to go through this quickly. You have it in your packet. This is this month's year-to-date expenditures. I'm going to, and what accompanies that is the line item transfers. So we are over in a number of lines, and we have to make that up. We've identified ways to do so. You don't need to vote on it tonight if you don't want to. It's not on the agenda. I don't know if it has to be on the agenda to vote on it. But I wanted you to be aware of it so you didn't look at the budget, see all these overages and wonder what the heck's happening. So let's flip to page 2. On the top of page 2, you will see that the grade 6 teacher is projected to be over by a certain amount there, the 89, and we have a way to cover that. So do you have in your other packet, do you want to look at them at the same time? In the packet on page 11 is the line item transfer. So if you take that, and notice on page 11, on the far left column, it says A, B1, B2, 3, C, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to give you the code, so if you look at the 89, that's being restored by C. So I'm going to call it line item transfer C number 1. So you see there's programs out of district. We are not going to spend as much money on the programs out of district as was identified initially. So as a result, we have $161,000 that we can reallocate to those areas where we are over budget. And the ones that we are covering are listed here. The grade 6 teacher, if you want to write on this document, I'll just tell you the page number so that you can go back home and look at it. The 89,184 is on page 2 of the expenditure report. You'll see that. The 50,000 for the SPED teachers, that is on page, that's on page, I'll tell you in a minute. That's on the very bottom of page 2. The very bottom of page 2, it says 49,918, and that transfer is going to be, so that's on the bottom of page 2. The SPED professionals, paraprofessionals, that is on the, page 3, on the top of page 3. That's 17,000, so it's 16,564. And then the neurodiversity paraprofessionals, that's going to be harder for you to find, but it's going to be on page 3, just below the other paras. You'll see that it's showing that it's $12,841 over. We're only transferring $2,000 because Southampton is going to be reimbursed by Westhampton for one of the neurodiversity paras that's there. So once all of that accounting gets done, we don't expect you will be over budget there. We do expect you will be over budget the 2,000, and hence that's why at this point we're only moving the 2,000. So again, that's on page 3. The medical health nurse, that's going to be over, and that is on page, so hard to find these. That's on page 4 at the top, and we're anticipating being over a little bit there, and this is how we're going to account for that. So that's the major part in what's in C, and then in A and B, we are going to be under in utilities. That's because there was a renegotiated contract, and we went out with a bid and we got a much lower bid for 3 years. And so that money is available, and it's going to get redistributed to the technology student staff software, which is, what's the Power School? So this is Power School. They are really expensive, and that's why we're over budget. So that's going to take care of that one. And then the same rubbish, where we're going to be under budget, is making up for the septic, where we are going to be over budget in a few other Power School bills. So we're under by a certain amount in certain areas. We're over. We're making that up. You can take the vote next month.
Dawn, in terms of the grade 6 teacher,
yes,
teacher, was that something that had to do back with the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So last year, when certain positions were cut, when the budget was being developed, there's all this bumping that goes on, and somebody got eliminated that shouldn't have been eliminated. In the budget, not in real life, but no, in the budget, it just wasn't accounted for. Yep. Okay.
No.
And there were some who were in the budget that shouldn't have been, and so it was there's some movement that has to happen. The only other thing I wanted to mention, if you noticed on the FY, and John might have noticed this, on the FY27 budget that we just went through, you'll notice last year we had something from preschool revolving, and you notice we didn't have anything from there. We are really in need of looking at that. We're projecting to be at a deficit by the end of the year of at least 20,000. Because we continue to charge, and the way the budget was developed, we charge so much of the preschool salaries to the preschool revolving, and we just don't have enough. We're not taking in enough to cover all that.
So that's why we didn't use any preschool revolving for this
Yeah.
budget, because.
So anyway, just something to be aware of.
Do we used all of the foundation reserve grant last year?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
And there's no more left.
We did it, we didn't.
And that's what John was saying. We've depleted a lot of our resources.
Okay. I didn't have line item transfers as a budget item. I have other as a budget
I
item.
make a motion that we approve the line item transfer fiscal year 26 dated Wednesday, March 11, 2026, totaling debits and credits of $173,560.37, and that after they are posted, that the committee be given updated financials,
And the chair be authority authorized.
and that the chair be authorized to sign on behalf of the committee, acknowledging our vote.
Okay.
Second.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Hang on, we haven't voted. Any discussion?
Oh.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right.
Okay, two more things, quickly. One, I think everybody may have met KK. This is another Kimberly. We call her KK because there's so many Kims. And Kimberly Kolick is our district accountant, which everybody voted for. And she is here to take over for the consultant who will be leaving soon. And, not quickly.
Quickly, as fast as they can.
That was a little slip.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. And so that's the positive news. The other disappointing news is that the business administrator who we hired was here 20 days.
Assistant.
Oh, the assistant. Oh, yeah. That's right.
She keeps trying to get out of it.
Yeah, right. The assistant business administrator was here 20 days and decided to leave. And so for various reasons, it wasn't for her. So we are back looking. And it's been a very busy budget season, and it continues. And there it is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I apologize, Kimberly, for not introducing you. I know you, so of course, everybody else does too. So I apologize for not mentioning you before.
And thank you for doing all that on the fly.
For real, that.
And Kimberly looked over my shoulder, and then KK looked over my shoulder, and then Kim got into methodology, so I think we're good.
So it's all my fault if it's wrong. That's okay, 70 days, 70 days to go. All right, moving on. So meal charge policy, this is a second read. I have to look back and see what the first read was. Vito, thank you for putting it in the folder, because with all the stuff I've been working on, I just, I have almost as much free time as you do. All right, so anyway, Eliza requested that we do this specifically tonight because this has to go up on the website. Is that correct, Eliza?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the audit, right? Yeah.
So we need a meal charge policy and procedure. And there was a first reader in the fall, was it in June? Is that what you said?
I think it was
It was last year.
It was last year sometime.
Somehow we went from this to the fees and
we never got back to this.
We never got back to this. The most important part of this letter that we had to add to make it comply with what they're looking for is that if a student has funds on a prepaid account, any balance at the end of the year will carry over to the following school year. Any balances can be transferred to student, meaning sibling, friend, or neighbor within or school. Request for assistance can be made, blah, blah, blah. Any amount remaining as a credit balance at the end of 6th grade will be refunded back to the student and not go with them to Hampshire.
Okay, so that's the only change.
That's the most important part, yeah.
And the rest of it we had already said was okay? All right. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Joe.
But you go ahead first, Margaret.
Yeah, the only thing is we need to just have the information down below on when first read.
Yeah, we need
and all
first
that.
read, yeah.
So we just need to add that.
That's where I was going. And if this is a lettered policy, because usually up in the corner, it's A, B, C, D.
It's like EFC.
Do you see it somewhere?
No, it's.
Oh, as long as,
Yeah, so, yeah, this is.
All right, it's all right.
Well, what is the letter? Because we should make that in the motion.
Looks like EFC.1.
EFC.1.
I can ask someone at central office tomorrow. And I can go back to when we looked at it in June.
Okay.
And see what the discussion was.
Right, so you've got to put the first read date and the second read date on the bottom.
So as long as in the official minutes, it references the policy number.
EFC, yeah.
Yep.
All right, any further discussion?
So it's approved tonight?
Well, no, almost, I have to actually get to the
Sorry.
vote.
But they could, on here, it needs first read, second read, and then approval date?
If they, again, I really think it was all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. So now it's approved, Eliza.
Thank you.
All right, Dylan, is there any other policy stuff? No, okay. Dylan, you have the softball field information?
Sort of, maybe, kind of. I don't think we're moving forward on it at this moment. I spoke to Nikki, who had conversations with Cheryl Parker, who is a family member who's been involved. I'm still waiting on connecting with her.
Yes.
The issue is when the land, what I'm told at least, when the land was gifted from the Parker family to Norris, the entire field itself was named in perpetuity to be named Parker Field. And there is legal documentation that supports that. I am still working on finding that. I think there's, the Sayers and the Parkers were close friends. I mean, they work together. I don't think there's not necessarily an objection from the family on that, but I don't want to make a recommendation to move one way or another until, I don't want people to feel like they're being pushed into agreeing to do something that they don't want to do necessarily, or is gonna, I'd like to put this to bed once and for all and kind of have this recorded somewhere, have the legal documentation, have a discussion about exactly how we're going to do it. I think they're okay with the naming of the softball diamond for the Sayer family. I think that's something they're comfortable with, but how we do that and not change the entire name from Parker Field, I think it's a question that needs to be delved into deeper before we make any approvals on that.
Okay, so I'm going to my note to myself is to put it on the April agenda.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not going to, may not make a town meeting, but it's a bigger, I think it's a bigger issue. Sorry, John.
Would your thing be old business or new business?
Old.
Okay, so John has something that came up today, I think.
Yeah, so if you remember back, if you were here in May of 2023, under new business, we read into the record a formal probate of will and appointment of personal representatives of the estate of Mary T. Parent. And she left a bequest to the town of Southampton, well, I'll just read it. To the town of Southampton to establish a scholarship fund for the benefit of any Southampton resident who is pursuing higher education. The fund shall be held and administered under the direction of the local school committee. The cumulative interest only on said fund is to be given annually to at least one student or more, should it be decided. If at any time it becomes financially impossible to continue this fund, it is my specific instructions that the principal be used for the purchase of a capital item only to benefit the local schools of Southampton. Received notice today that after 3 years, it's done. And back then I was the chair. They asked for the chair. I was going to give him Kim's name, but I realized in less than 70 days, she won't be the chair. So what I've emailed the attorney back, who's in Westfield, and said they could forward it to the superintendent's office, to Dr. Perone, his name. I think we should just take a vote to authorize the superintendent to sign the assertion or the assert. He'll also get the copy of everything in the details of the events, and then the check will be forthcoming afterwards. So I'm going to do this in 2 motions. So that'd be my first motion, to authorize the superintendent to sign whatever legal documents the appropriate court needs to close out the case on behalf of the committee.
Okay, so that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
Good with this? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what's the second?
And then I wrote down here that when funds arrive, that we authorize the superintendent to add a sub-account to Fund 27003, the revolving fund gift funds, but specifically earmark a bequest fund from Mrs. Parent so that these funds can be tracked separately and not commingled within our gift fund. I assume there's a way to create a sub-account within the gift fund. Seeing no nod, yes or no. I'm going to say Dawn agrees with me.
Dawn. No, it's okay, it's okay.
I was still trying to find this thing, sorry.
Can you create a sub-account under the gift fund, under Fund 27003?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, so we're going to make a motion if we do it.
He just wanted to know if it was possible, not that
we
you
have
have
to
to.
yeah, we have to keep track of the interest because that's what's.
Keep the funds separate, and then at some point, because I don't think we have, the local school committee doesn't do any investments right now that I'm aware of, so we would need to do that. It's not going to sit in a checking account at .001.
Is it on the books now in the elementary?
No, this will be new. Superintendent's going to get the check.
Oh.
You're going to get a check for $14 billion. I have no idea how much this is going to be.
Yeah, okay, I understand. I just didn't know if it was on the municipal books or on the,
It doesn't exist. The check's coming from the court.
yeah, okay, so just.
But it would go into the school?
It's to be held by and controlled by the local school committee.
Okay, so then we put it on your books.
Right, under the gift funds.
Elementary, okay.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so John, can you clean it up and say your motion again so people know what we're doing?
That upon receipt of the check, I authorize the superintendent to create a standalone gift fund account under the local school committee's control and deposit said funds into it so that the funds remain isolated. And then the next elected school committee can determine how they're going to invest those funds and do something with that. But that way the check's not sitting on someone's desk.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'm so confused. So in 2020, no, but in
He
2000.
passed away
It
in
took this long to get through probate.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yes.
I was like, how have we not been giving out scholarships if this happened in 2023?
No,
Gotcha,
we don't have
okay.
money yet.
3 years is quick for probate.
Gotcha. So let me understand this also correctly, that it said we're getting said check of unknown amount, and the scholarships are coming from
That fund, that check. that-
interest?
Interest only.
Okay, so we're just holding this money, and whatever the interest is, we give out as a scholarship every year?
Up to the amount of it. So we can set, if there's, $1,500 interest, we could give out $1,500, we could give out.
We have to give at least one.
Give out
and it's the interest.
$500 or something?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's our discretion.
But, and I'll turn all these documents over to the superintendent so he has it for the file, because 30 years from now, when this depletes, they're gonna wanna know what to do with the money.
So this is paperwork you want to have where you know where it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I know exactly where it's going to be.
Oh, wow. All right, is there any further discussion on the motion? There is a motion, a second?
You're welcome, Don.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Margaret. Okay, so I don't think this will be long, this
no.
ADC update, go.
Yeah, so superintendent did a survey in the fall to gauge people's understanding of the All Districts Committee and to gauge the efficacy of it. And in general, people felt like it was just another step that we have to go through. Not really sure what role it can play because it's not recognized by DESE. There's a number of questions about it. However, at the meeting, members of the ADC felt that it does play a role of some sort, to be determined. And so Peter Cleary is taking it on to relook at the agreement and see if it can be adjusted, the language can be adjusted so that it is more efficient and effective and does what we want it to do. Okay, that's it.
And then there will be like more ADC meetings after Peter has something to bring to the group.
Yep.
Okay,
So I'll be long gone from this seat when this happens, but
as will I.
is there still movement to up, down, one way or the other, create a single unified regional district? Right, because,
I think that
With
it's just,
what?
it's a 10-year process, but yes.
but is it still moving forward, or is it halted now so Peter can take time to review?
No, that's different. The ADC is different.
But that's why ADC was created.
It was, but it's
That's
also
why it was
a
created?
different process entirely,
So-
and the
so-
superintendent wants to talk.
I just, to that point specifically, I had a series of documents that I was looking at, including the ADC agreement, including the Hampshire Regional Agreement. And I started with the Hampshire Regional Agreement because there were a large amount of amendments and changes that needed to be made. So I've been working with the lawyer and the state. We finally have that back from both, and we have to make some final changes to it, and then it has to be brought to the towns. So my goal is by the end of this spring to get the Hampshire Regional Agreement buttoned up with respect to the amendments and all the changes that have been suggested by the state and by the lawyer. And once that's done, my goal would be to bring it in the fall to the towns.
That's
For-
not full regionalization, which is what.
No, sorry. So that's just the first document I was looking at. Then the next one in line was going to be the ADC document.
And then.
And
So you're committing here on the record tonight
Oh, God.
to complete this prior to your retirement?
Nope, I don't think I said that, John.
All right,
Dead by the time that happens.
okay, so, was there more? Elisa,
I have one new thing under new business.
you go for it, yep.
So our friends at Bank ESB, on behalf of their charitable giving program called the Giving Tree, had sponsored Norris School for every new account that they opened, a percentage of the something comes back to Norris School. So I would like to have you, if you could, accept this as a gift for $680 to Norris School to go to a gift revolving account.
Somebody make a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Pursuant to our policy, I expect that a appropriate thank you from the building administrator will go out, I believe is what our policy says.
believe it.
Acknowledging, or is it the chair? I can't remember which.
I believe it's the principal.
Yeah.
And I believe she would have done it anyway. So,
Just teasing.
there we go. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So now, just to make everybody's night at 10 of 9, we are not having an executive.
Oh, thank God. Move to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, yeah.
Meeting adjourned at 8:50. Thank you all.
And just think, we'd be halfway through the.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.